keep close to the microphone.
As per usual.
As per usual. But you must be used to it now after... I mean, you said you were running your own podcast before too.
Yeah, so I've done 2 different podcasts. One which was sort of like by myself, talking about like different tech and gaming news. Like this was like way back in, I don't even know, like 2017 maybe, like before I even started uni. And then I did one whilst I was actually in uni, because I think it was like sort of a reaction to the COVID lockdowns. What we did was like, because I was part of the student exec at media design school. So me and my friend was like, we gel pretty well together. We should like start a podcast and see where it goes.
Yeah.
We did like 5 episodes, or at least 4 between the 2 of us, and then me with somebody else for 1 episode. But like it just rolled so well that it was like, this could actually get really good. But then after, he graduated and I was still doing my stuff.
Yeah.
It was kind of like, well, okay, I guess we're not doing this anymore, but we'll see what happens once we get out of uni. So,
So do you mean like your time didn't sync up?
No, not after he left. Yeah, yeah, because he's now turned into a flight attendant for Air New Zealand.
Right.
So like he's somewhere off in the world. Yeah,
Sure. Yeah. The time difference is difficult.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
For sure.
What was that podcast about?
It was kind of just talking about like student life, whatever was going on sort of in our daily lives as students for media design school. It was kind of more like an internal podcast where like we would be talking about, what was going on on the campus and like what was kind of just going on in our daily lives. Almost like, just a general podcast, no like real like major theme, but it had like the ideas there to be like, oh yeah, we could talk about this, we could talk about that, but we also want to make sure we mention stuff about like student life.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So was the main audience for that the media design school?
Yeah,
students?
I would say so. Media design school body, and then also like the faculty, which surprisingly they actually really enjoyed. And that like people kept coming up to us being like, we know you get this question a lot.
Yeah.
When's the next episode? It's like, oh my god, we need to plan it. Like it's gonna take so much time, but like it's something.
It is a lot of work. It's surprisingly a lot of work. I think.
Yeah.
As a listener, because I only started my podcast this year too, and as a listener, I didn't really appreciate how much work goes into this.
Yeah.
And how much time goes into this. Therefore,
for sure. Yeah. I mean, when we did our one, not only were we like uploading it to YouTube as like long form video content, we were also uploading it to Spotify as long form video content. Because I think with certain podcasts, you can actually like upload a video as well.
Yeah.
So like we were doing it on those 2 things, and then we also had like this big like 3 camera setup with like we had like a Blackmagic Pocket as our main camera, and then we had my camera and his camera, and it was like there was so much editing going into it.
What's
and
Blackmagic Pocket?
It's a 6K sensor like mini camera that's like cinema grade, essentially.
Wow.
Yeah. Surprisingly, we had a friend who's actually a lecturer who was like, I have an extra camera if you need it. Like, if you want to borrow it, you can. It's like, okay. It brings it in as a Blackmagic Pocket that's worth like so much money. I'm like, are you sure you could trust us with this?
So there was filming both of you.
Yeah.
And you had 2 other cameras for each of you.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And did you have to, because it takes a long time to edit that too.
Yeah, it did. It really did. It took like at least a week and like so much time on top of like what we were doing for our studies and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because how long were your podcasts? Like the length of them?
It was about like 1 to 2 hours, depending. Yeah.
But listening back to them and then matching the cameras according to that.
Yeah, exactly.
It's all manual work, right?
Yeah, all manual work.
Yeah.
Yeah, and then also trying to find like, especially if we had guests from like, local or overseas, like in Australia, like also trying to get the feeds off that as well, trying to get everything synced up, and it was just like so much work.
Were the guests like game dev people?
No, just creatives.
Creatives,
It was actually just our friends that we had over in like one of our sister schools. What was it? Torrance University Ultimo, I think
Okay.
it was. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah.
Is it sort of like media design school, but in Australia?
Yeah, pretty much. Yeah.
Mm.
I mean, they obviously offer more like programs and stuff, but specifically the Ultimo campus was notably known for their sort of creativity like degrees. Yeah.
Yeah. What was because how long? What was your frequency like? How often did you release episodes?
I think we released it like bi-weekly. I think it was.
Bi-weekly, okay.
Yeah, so like every 2 weeks, which would give us some time to film it plus like edit and make sure that everything was, you know, the way that we hoped it would be.
And
Yeah.
how did you promote it?
So it's funny, we actually just used all the like internal sort of systems we had already created as a team.
Yeah.
So it was a good
Damn.
chance to like utilize the Discord servers, utilize like the student emailing list, social media like
Yeah.
Instagram and all that. So yeah, we had everything available to us. It was just a case of like, how do we utilize this in the right way? Yeah.
That's sick. Yeah. I think I feel like that feels right to me because it's so organic. You
Yeah.
start with the local community, and at the same time, it caters to like, niche of people that they're interested in.
Yeah, for sure.
And I think, do you listen to much other podcast? Or not really.
Not really. I'm not much of a podcast person.
Is that right? Yeah.
Yeah.
So one of my favorite podcasts, Lex Friedman. Have you heard of Lex Friedman?
I think I've heard the name.
You might have heard of him. He's
Yeah.
like friends with like Joe Rogan and
yeah.
other like comedians and like jiu-jitsu people.
Yeah.
But he's a researcher at MIT, I think.
Oh.
But so he's got a the thing that he's most known for is his podcast, the Lex Friedman podcast.
Right.
And the
yeah.
way he started is very similar to you. He was lecturing at MIT and he started the podcast as part of the material for the what he was lecturing.
Really?
Yeah, so he used to, because he lectures like AI stuff.
Right.
So he
yeah.
would interview AI people and he would release that as podcast and just be like, oh, students, like listen to this.
Right.
And
Okay.
since then it got big. So I think it used to be called the AI podcast or something. And since then it got bigger and bigger. Now it's called the Lex Friedman podcast. And he has a lot of like AI people on, but also comedians. He's super into martial arts, so he has martial arts people on, and like a lot of politicians and things. Yeah, and I felt like, I think, that feels like the way to go.
Yeah.
The ideal way to go anyway.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure.
I mean, if you want to start it, you should start it anyway, whether if it's podcast or YouTube channel or anything.
Yeah.
But I think, that feels like the kind of textbook way to go.
Yeah. I think in terms of like the direction I would go if I wanted to start up another podcast, I don't think I would actually do a podcast. I think I would do more of live, what is it called? Live play, like tabletop RPG sort of podcast. In the sense that, it's just a sit down session of like me and a bunch of other people just playing D&D or something like that. Yeah.
And it would be like a long form, like 2 to 3 hours, you reckon?
I don't even think it would be 3 hours. It'd be like 4.
4 hours.
Yeah.
No editing.
No editing.
They do that with the do you know Viva La Dirt?
Viva La Dirt League.
Yeah, they do that, right? I haven't seen it, but I've seen them playing D&D.
Yeah. I mean, I follow mostly like the two staples, Critical Role and Dimension 20.
Right.
And yeah, like their episodes normally last about 4 hours maximum.
Yeah.
But like most of the time it's pretty like uncut, except for when they're cutting to like a commercial break or something like that. But yeah, like honestly, I could go as long as I wanted to on those kinds of things, but you got to cut it off somewhere.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, because how long are the D&D sessions usually?
For me, typically it is about 4 hours.
4 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
there will be a good session, like a podcast episode, right?
Yeah, for sure. For sure.
Yeah.
Like, I'm currently playing in one campaign as a player and then also running one campaign myself. So, between the two, I have a lot of documented content that is in the form of notes and stuff. And even for the one that I'm playing in, I've actually started recording those sessions not for podcast usage, but more for like keeping track of notes, because we find it easier not only to have the physical notes in front of us, but also having a voice recording of the session as a whole,
Right.
so that we can refer back to it and be like, oh, this is a like a little detail that we actually missed.
Right.
Yeah, because there's always going to be a chance that between me, another note taker, and then also the dungeon master, that there's going to be elements that we're going to miss, and that's just human error, really. But you come back to it and it's like, oh my god, I missed this one crucial element that we need for like the session. So I better record this now, or make sure that it's somewhere so that I can refer back to it.
Is it part of like the just trying to be as realistic as possible in terms of world building? Is that usually the case?
Not really, actually. There's a lot of elements in both of the campaigns that I play in, where actually it is leaning more into that sort of power fantasy genre, even though it's not necessarily, fantasy, for example. Like my campaign that I'm running is more or less akin to sort of like steampunk industrialism kind of thing. My campaign that I'm playing in, on the other hand, is very much 1950s and 1990s high school. So it's very, very different in comparison to like previous campaigns that I've played in, where it's very gritty, raw fantasy and like with like really just harsh rules. But it's a lot more freeing, and it's a lot more, I guess, just it feels different but familiar. Yeah.
Okay. I've never played D&D before. I know the concept of it. So what, you start with the world, right?
I mean, from a dungeon master's perspective, yeah. You do.
Okay.
Yeah.
So and is there like a website that has all the worlds that's available?
So
set up for you?
in terms of like running it by the book, if to put it sort of in perspective, you've got physical books that you can buy from like, I don't know, like a game store. But there's also resources like D&D Beyond, Roll20, who all have the books in like sort of a digital format as well.
Right.
So you can refer to those for like, by the book campaigns. But especially for the two campaigns, going back to it again, both of them are what we call homebrew campaigns. So the worlds are completely created by us, the DMs, and have little to no ties to the original world that 5th edition Dungeons and Dragons is based off.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I know there are like different editions of worlds as well. Like you said, like 1950s, 60s high school.
Yeah.
But when I think of D&D, it's like back in the days, you know?
Lord of the Rings.
Lord of the Rings
high
vibes.
fantasy.
Yeah. So is there like people come up with different things, kind of like mods in games?
I would say so. Like, there's a lot of flexibility when it comes to playing Dungeons and Dragons and making content for Dungeons and Dragons, in the sense that, like, you've got the overall like standard narrative of, the world that D&D is supposed to be ran in, where it's high fantasy. You've got, elven archers who are riding on horseback, like shooting people down, all the way to the point of like, now I think one of the more recent books was like their interpretation of Harry Potter.
Right.
But like with 5 different universities spanning 5 different like schools of magic.
That sounds sick.
With like big buildings and like just this grandioseness of like, a large world. So even in this sort of like power fantasy vacuum that it's created, there is a lot of diversity, but there could always be more. Which is kind of the take that a lot of people do with when it comes to creating homebrew content, in the sense that, it's making something that wasn't originally there in the original story that has pretty much been provided to you. Because, like, for context, my campaign that I'm running is essentially the big picture of it that I wanted to create was, what if I created a world that was more aligned with things of Asian culture
Okay.
or like non-Eurocentric culture? Because a lot of what you see in Dungeons and Dragons is very much like the Knights Templar, the like invasion of castles and like very European ideals. But then you look at the older versions, so like 3.5, 4, maybe 2, even 1 of Dungeons and Dragons, like the different older editions, and you look at, say, like the Asian inspired elements of those settings, nowhere near as like realistic as it is, because it's not Asian, it's very Oriental.
I guess that's to do with where Dungeons and Dragons started, right?
Exactly.
You'd be their interpretation of what they think Asian
Is
culture is.
exactly.
Yeah.
So I wanted to create sort of my take on that, being somebody of Asian descent, and providing my knowledge to the culture and creating a world that is based off that knowledge, that is more I would say like more to the heart, if anything, and making sure that it feels the most satisfactory for, like, say another Asian person to come in and play and be like, wow, this is represented really, really well.
Yeah.
But also having elements where it keeps to that sort of original D&D feel, just less of the like Eurocentricity, I guess you'd call it. I don't even know if that's a word, but like, yeah, like making sure that it just doesn't feel like typical D&D, where you kind of feel like an outlier in that sense. Yeah.
Is it all to do with immersiveness?
Yeah, I mean, it really does come down to like how immersed you get your players to be, because you could say like, you walk into a village, that's it. But then like if you take it the other way and you kind of go, you walk into this small town, you see that there's like this channel of water running through it, bridges overlapping everything, and like you start talking about then like the architecture and sort of the elements that are more present within like what you'd typically expect. And it's like, yeah, this is definitely what's going to make it feel more to the teeth of what you've got in your notes for like this world. Yeah.
And that's the dungeon master's job, right?
Exactly. Yeah.
How much preparation? Because Dylan, I mean, we'll get into all of these things, but you do a lot of things.
Oh yeah.
You do a lot of things like streaming, photography, and until recently you've been working on you have your study that as well.
Yeah.
And on top of that, not only playing in a campaign, but also dungeon master in another.
Yeah.
How much preparation does that take?
Surprisingly, it doesn't take that much preparation.
Really?
Yeah. Like you'd be very much surprised. Like if I were to show you my notes for the world, like, yeah, sure, it's like notes that have spanned like maybe 1 or 2 years worth of development. But when it comes to the like session by session notes that I create before I actually go in and sit down and play,
Okay.
it only takes like 30 minutes.
What would be the preparation look like? What would they look like?
It's kind of like it's a long-term thing which I'm trying to like sort of optimize always. But really what it comes down to is kind of just, what do you expect the players to go? Like, what are the different directions you expect the players to go? And how do you plan for those situations? Because it's not really, in a sense, for me, planning via the plot. It's planning via the situation. Because, your players, depending on how the, like, not necessarily like the team comp is set up, but how like their egos kind of clash with the dungeon master in a good way. How will they sort of like, take the campaign that you've created? Because if you keep your world open like a sandbox, they're going to find exploits, and they're going to find ways to be like, I don't want to follow this route. I'm going to go take this route
Yeah.
and be like, I have not planned for that, but okay, we're going this route then. Yeah. Like there's been many a time where like my players did that.
Yeah.
Like exact movement. And I was like, okay, I got to think of something right on the spot, like right now, and like adapt to that change.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's crazy. Like, I've had one encounter where basically like they came up against a large, like water-based Leviathan beast.
Okay.
And the thing was is that I didn't want them to kill it, right? But I didn't want to put up like I didn't want to put up too much of a fight, or I should say. Well, I wouldn't say too much of a fight. I wanted to put up a fight, but make it feel like they should probably run away from this rather than continue fighting it. Right. And I was like, okay, what's a stat block I can use? Okay, dragon turtle. Right. How can I like create the design? Okay, it's got like a giant red horn. It looks like a giant snake. It has like legs and stuff. And then it has like this whole thing about, it was split in two, and like this, that, and the other. And then it just, because of how I was saying it, I was like, hey, this kind of works, surprisingly. So now, like, I go back home and I go through my review notes and I'm like, I should put this down as an actual thing that is possible in the world.
Right.
And like, again, that's more planning. Like you start to create these like background narratives that sort of keep the world going at a pace and like keep it sort of everlasting and sort of live, essentially, because the players only get to experience whatever's in front of them, but there's always going to be things in the background that are going to be affecting them in one way or the other.
Yeah.
So like creating those narratives is part of the job, but it's something that someone as a dungeon master doesn't really have to think about until the time comes.
But when it comes to it, you like you say, you might have to sometimes make it up on the spot.
Exactly. Yeah.
That sounds tough.
It does. But when you've been playing it for, I would say, like I have for like 2 years, as of now, 2 to 3 years, you find your flow and it becomes almost like second nature to do, because like, sure, you may like want to over prep, but in actual fact, like at least the way that I find it is, it's better that I under prep so that I have that breathing room to then do these kinds of things, because then like the way that I think, it's sort of like, what is it? Some of my best ideas actually just come from being under pressure in a way. I create these really cool narratives when I'm best under pressure.
Right.
Yeah. Even as, not just as a player, but also as a dungeon master, because like if I can do that, then it's like, okay, I need a quick think. I need to start like bursting out ideas, and then I'll find something that I like just, splurt out as like some just random context, and it's like, whoa, this works.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And do you find that fun? Do you find that satisfying?
I find that so satisfying.
Yeah.
Like it's probably one of my favorite sort of techniques that I use, which is really odd to say, but like at the same time, it's kind of like, hey, I mean, if it's something that I could work really well with, then who knows how I can apply this to like actual real world stuff.
Yes.
I guess. Yeah.
I mean, I'm already thinking like any improv comedy, even stand up and things like that,
Yeah, potentially. Yeah. It was an option that I had earlier in life, but then I was like, I don't think I'm funny enough to like do just stand-up comedy. I'm just me.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like I do well as just, representing who I am as a person, but when it comes to like, scripted comedy or something like that, I'm just like, what? Yeah.
What about improv?
Improv, same thing, I think. Like I'm always like thinking like, I have to say something funny, but like when I'm not bound to like having to think like that,
Yeah.
it's like okay, I can just be myself. I can like express the way that I want to express myself. And I guess that's kind of, in a good segue, the best part about me when it comes to my like streaming stuff, I would say.
Right.
Because for one, I'm a VTuber, right?
Mm.
Or I'm primarily a VTuber now. And the main thing coming out of that is like, you know, I can hide behind an image. Well, people kind of know who I am already, but for the most part, when I'm on stream, people like I just hide behind an image, and it means that like I can just say whatever I want, obviously within the guidelines, but say whatever I want and make myself feel comfortable in the moment and come up with the funniest things to say, in all honesty. Yeah.
And do you think not showing your face directly helps with that?
For sure. For sure. I mean, I don't plan to stay as a VTuber, I would say. I'm very much hoping to swap my content to be more mixed in a way, using my actual like cameras and stuff to, I guess for certain content, but then also using my like images and VTubing stuff for like other parts of my content as well.
Yeah.
Yeah, it really depends on the situation. Like if I wanted to say integrate my D&D back into regular scheduled content, I can turn on my cameras and be happy with it, because I know for a fact that I, as a person, feel like if I was to either be playing or like dungeon mastering another campaign like that, I would want to show my expressions.
Yeah.
I would want to show me as a person expressing and, you know, showcasing how I act as a person. Because like in a way, even though I don't plan to do stuff like stand-up comedy, improv comedy, or like acting, it's kind of a good way to like build up sort of a show reel that I can show to people, be like, if you want me on your like D&D live play, here's the stuff that I've done.
Yes.
Yeah,
It's like a portfolio, right?
exactly. Like I'm building up a somewhat reasonable portfolio for something that is so minuscule, but will hopefully down the line affect the way that things happen, I guess, or like, you know, how I do stuff in my day-to-day life.
Do you mean to say that you want to take D&D more seriously?
Once I have the time. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. I feel like D&D just as like a as an outlet has brought a lot of creativity and inspiration for me. But at the same time, there's always that whole thing of like, I just don't have the time. But there is also the fact of I have the time. So it's just like trying to find a balance between everything that I do to create the time to then make the content, to then push out that content and then create more content out of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you mean to say that you want to spend more time doing D&D without, I guess it's like, do you want to monetize your D&D sessions?
In a way, but I have to kind of find, like, at the same time, I kind of have to find the right people and the right sort of like group harmony to be able to do it. Because sure, everybody could play D&D, but only a certain group is going to be able to properly, you know, involve themselves in D&D and be able to be, I guess, comfortable making content about D&D. So it's kind of finding the right people who would be keen to hop on a project and like whack out a few sessions and be like, have some content. There you go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Are you thinking something like Viva la Dirt?
Yeah, in a way.
Kind of thing.
Yeah. I did mention on Iconic Chaos's podcast that I did have an idea in mind for like a table that I wanted.
Yes.
Featuring a bunch of like New Zealand content creators. Grizz, Twisted Little Red, Iconic himself, Pope, and like a few other people. But it's up to them whether they feel comfortable doing it.
Yeah.
Is the thing. Because I know for a lot of them, they are newbies. They won't know how to do certain things. Obviously, yeah, I'm there to help them. But at the same time, it's that whole, I guess you'd say it's kind of like that dichotomy of, is it okay for me to ask him about these questions even though they sound so dumb?
Do you mean like from their perspective?
From their perspective, yeah. Yeah. Like, I mean, there's no such thing as a stupid question, right? So, like, any question I'm happy to answer, but it's up to them to pose said question and bring it to the table so that, if the situation comes up, it's like, do I just like search this up, or do I talk to him, or what do I do? And it's like, I don't know. You just tell me.
Yeah.
Just give me what you need to know.
And we're talking in terms of the live streaming sense, right?
The live streaming sense, probably also like certain mechanics within D&D as well.
Yeah.
Or just anything to do with even the story of it as well. Because I've had people who have been hesitant to like come up to me and talk to me about certain things with D&D, but I'm always like, you know what? I'm all ears. Just tell me what you need to tell me, and we'll figure something out.
So people struggle asking questions?
I would say so.
Is that what you commonly find?
Yeah, because I think like there's sort of the weird thing of like a certain embarrassment.
Okay.
I guess, asking about it, because again, it's kind of like, they feel like it's a stupid question to ask. Like, it's probably the most simplest thing. Like, say, for a fighter, for example, if somebody's playing a fighter, there's a ability called Action Surge, and which allows you to basically attack again. And I've had people come up to me and is like, what does Action Surge do? And they just think it's like a really stupid question, but like, I get it. Like, you've got so much information on the paper that you're kind of just lost in the numbers, I guess. And it's kind of just like, what do I do? And it's like, okay, Action Surge is this, and this.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, great, cool, easy beans. Like, I was helping my friend out actually on Thursday with making a character. He built a shadow sorcerer, shadow magic sorcerer. And the one thing I did tell him is, even though he's a spellcaster, he doesn't have to memorize all of his spells.
Okay.
Sort of to like branch off that, on a YouTube channel I follow, Jenny D, she mentions that she went to a sort of, it was like an event where basically they were playing D&D at a castle.
Wow.
But
cool.
yeah, I know. But the thing is like, she was on a table where the dungeon master was the head designer of Dungeons and Dragons for Wizards of the Coast.
Wow.
And even then, like, for like a really simple spell, he completely mind blanked on it and was like, let me go and grab my book, and like actually pulls out like a physical player's handbook,
right,
and rifles through it to find this one spell, because like it just goes to show, even some of the like the head like designers don't know their spells, because there are just so many different spells that you have to choose from. They're like, I'm like ballparking this, but like there's probably about 500 different spells.
Yeah.
Right. Like overall. So to remember 500 different spells in your head,
that's a lot.
Whilst remembering also all of your other features. Crazy.
And things that are happening in the real world that the players are doing.
Exactly. As well. So it's kind of like how, like, you don't have to remember all of these things. And I get it. That's what we're here for. This is why we step up to the plate and run these things for you guys, is because then, like, well, we can utilize that knowledge that we know and push that out to you. Because I just remember things by number, really, in the sense of like, what does this thing do? I know the page to go to for that thing.
I see.
Yeah. So there are ways that we know where to go, but obviously for us as DMs, but also us as players, we don't need to know everything. We've got books and we've got resources online to help us with, managing the content that we need to.
How likely is that table that you are thinking of happen?
I would say very likely, but at the same time, the one big enemy when it comes to tabletop RPGs, scheduling.
Like when to do it.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because everybody I know from that list that I just rifled off, very busy people.
Yeah.
So it's finding the time to really just do it, I'd say.
Yeah.
Like, I've talked to every one of those people and they've all said keen. But it's just finding the time, really.
Mm.
Like for some people, you kind of have to plan like a month in advance.
Yeah.
So it's hard. It's the main thing. Yeah.
We're talking like 4 hours per session kind of vibe, right? Is that what you think?
I would say maybe like shortening it down to 2 hours.
Yeah.
Just so that people don't get bored. People can like experience it, but not to the fullest extent, like say Critical
Yes.
Role. Like I wouldn't push a new player into a 4-hour session. It may turn out to be like that, but at a like a rough estimate, I would give them a timeline of at least 2 hours, at least.
Yeah.
Because you never know if something's going to click with the entire group, and then you're just going to pathway down that whole thing, and then it will end up at 4 hours.
Mm.
So yeah, like there is the possibility of it being at 4 hours, but it's not the necessity. Like you could probably do things in about 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And would you say it's like a weekly thing?
Again, scheduling.
Yeah.
That's the thing. When you have content creators who are trying to make part of their livelihood out of creating daily content, essentially, it's hard. Very hard. You kind of almost need to dedicate almost a day, especially for a new player, to kind of just get into the right mindset, get to the table, sit down, play for a couple of hours, and then get back. And then by the time you get back, you'd think you want to stream, but your body's just tired.
Right.
Yeah.
Because you're thinking on the spot for like 2 hours, right?
Yeah. Yeah. You're like not only like thinking on the spot or thinking via your notes, but you're also acting. Like I have to put on so many different mannerisms, so many different voices, so many different body, I guess, movements to emphasize the kind of ideas that I want to emphasize at the time. And like even now, like I do a lot of hand movements because it's sort of a mannerism I've learned doing these sorts of like public speaking, D&D, and like other sort of things. Yeah. So it's a lot of work physically as well.
Yeah.
Which is like interesting to say, considering that you're sitting down at a table for 4 hours.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. I mean, like they say with chess players, for example, they burn so much calories in like a single match, they say.
Just by moving pieces.
Yeah. Just because they're thinking so much and yeah. They're thinking on the spot for like ages, high pressure, high stress.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I can see that. It could be like a very stressful. I mean, you're basically just sitting, but you know that's not all you're doing. You know.
Yeah.
There's so much more going on.
Yeah, and especially with how many other things that I'm actually doing at the moment as well, it's a lot more work as well. Because on top of me thinking in the moment about like what do I say next, I'm also thinking in the background, oh, I've got the shoot coming up this week.
Yeah.
I gotta remember to prepare for that. Or I've got this thing happening this week. I gotta prepare for that as well. So, yeah.
Damn.
It's a lot.
Do you think you live in the present moment?
Very much so, I would say. I take each day sort of just like as it is, like, you know, whatever happens kind of thing. And yeah, I mean, it kind of bleeds into everything that I do, where it's like things are very spontaneous. I don't necessarily need that 1 month in advance preparation to say like, okay, this date can be sorted out easily, no problem, or anything. I just like spontaneously do things. Like I think I saw a message from like one of my friends being like, hey, you want to go to Christmas in the park tonight? It's like, all right, keen. I don't have anything on tonight. I'll do it.
Heck yeah.
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 So like everything to me is very spontaneous in a sense, but there's also a sense of organization, like in advance kind of thing. So it kind of just depends on the moment, and it kind of depends on the situation. Like, you know, for D&D, for example, I always make sure that, okay, my Thursday evenings are free because I want to go to D&D.
Yeah.
I want to make sure that I'm there. For like Wednesdays, I do lightsaber like fights and stuff at the museum, and for the most part I want to make sure I'm there because I actually want to get some exercise in for the week.
Lightsaber fights?
Yeah, like we fight with proper lightsabers that can like you hit people with.
Oh, wait, is it like a weekly thing?
Yeah.
Wednesday nights?
Yeah. Yeah, it's so fun,
Yeah?
genuinely. Yeah, because we bring in so like many different people from many different backgrounds.
Right.
Like in the sense that we've got, I think, 2 or 3 people who are like fencing backgrounds, a couple of people who are HEMA backgrounds
Yeah.
as well. So like yeah, and then just a bunch of enthusiasts and like people who just love to do these sorts of blade sports without the brutality of it. I
Yeah.
would say, yeah. And yeah, it's super fun.
Yeah.
Genuinely super fun. Yeah.
What do you use for that?
So we have like proper lightsabers
Okay.
that will actually like light up and all that. There are actually rules behind like igniting the lightsaber and making sure that the blade stays on while you fight, because
Okay.
otherwise if it goes off,
You turned it off.
you turned it off.
Yeah.
You're kind of dead, theoretically.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I mean, I've started getting a bit more into the sort of I want to say administrative kind of thing, but it's more judging. Like
Okay.
I kind of prefer to be on the sidelines watching the fights and like picking out details. But I do also love my fights as well. Yeah.
So did you organize that as well?
No, I don't.
Okay.
No. But it is something I go to regularly.
Right.
Yeah.
Damn. So is it like 1v1 kind of situation? I'm just trying to picture like what goes on there.
We've had people like go 3v1.
3v1.
Yeah, genuinely, because like you got
Master.
one guy doing the like the Darth Maul dual lightsabers,
Yeah.
and you got 3 guys on him just like, I'm coming for you.
Yeah.
it's so fun. It's genuinely so fun to watch, because you see the guy and he's like spinning his like blade staff, which is what we call it, and like he's deflecting all 3 guys at the same time. It's like, what? Yeah.
Yeah. That's crazy. So is there like winners and losers? Like, because there's a judge, right? So
Yeah.
you judge like,
Yeah, I mean, we've only just started to sort of get into more professional, like organized play.
yeah.
I guess you would call it. Only because we're now like the group that I'm doing it with. We're now officially recognized by an international, sort of. I don't really know how you explain it. It's
Council of Jedis.
council. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, an international council. That allow for organized tournament play.
Wow.
So
Wow.
yeah, so like me and like a couple of other guys in that group, we've started to like read through rules. We've like
Okay.
figured out different like I guess what is it? We've figured out all the different like things you need to know about blade lengths and like what's legal, what isn't, boundary sizing and all that. So there are like pretty substantial rules. I like the rule book that I'm using is about 88 pages long.
Wow.
Yeah,
Yeah.
88 pages, 11 sections.
Yeah.
So it's a lot to read through.
That is a lot.
Yeah, but if it means that Auckland as a city can actually start to hold these kinds of more official events,
Yeah.
then hey, I'm all down for it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How did you get into it? Are you a fan of Star Wars or?
Not the biggest fan of Star Wars,
Okay.
but my friend was like, hey, do you want to come to these lightsaber nights? We do fights and all that sort of stuff. And it's like, I'm keen to check it out. But like it was like sort of from a photographer's perspective.
Yes.
Like, because I know lightsabers are always like a really great tool for like doing light painting.
Okay.
But then I saw the fights and I tried out a bunch of different sabers that people had like given me to like try out.
Ah.
And I'm like, whoa, this feels so good.
Yeah?
I don't know why, but there's just this like adrenaline that kind of rushes over when you see like somebody coming at you with like a lightsaber, just like, I'm gonna get you. It's like, oh, I don't really know how to explain it, but like it's really fun.
Yeah. Sounds exciting. Do you get hurt? Do people get hurt?
Okay. In terms of like pain scale, it's like being shot with a airsoft rifle.
That sounds hurt. That sounds painful.
Yeah, it's not the worst pain.
Okay.
But like it does get pretty painful.
Yeah.
I mean, we have rules in place to be like no face shots, no cheap shots, nothing under the belt essentially.
Yeah.
Or well, nothing under the belt, but you can hit the legs.
Yeah.
But things will slip. Things will
Accidents
happen.
happen, yeah.
Accidents happen.
Exactly.
Yeah. Like we've had like the most common one actually is getting hit on the knuckles.
Okay.
But we have precautions in place for that.
Hmm.
Like people are supposed to wear gloves. If if it does sting, we have things like ice sprays and stuff that we have on site to make sure that at least we can take the pain away for the most part. But then if it gets really serious, then there's always a call to the ambulance or the call to an A&E.
It's close to the hospital.
Yeah, pretty close. Yeah.
Probably walk to the hospital.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah.
So yeah, if worst comes to worst, like we have precautions in place. Yeah.
Do people dress up for that?
Sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes. Yeah. Because we have a lot of people who are cosplayers as well, or LARPers as well, and the live action roleplay.
Oh yeah.
Yeah. We have a lot of people who do either one of the two, and like they're always, well, not always, but like every so often they'll come in a costume just so that they can test it out whilst they're fighting and make sure that there's the like sort of, I guess, structural durability of the actual costume, so that if they bring it to something like Armageddon or like another convention, then they can comfortably do the moves that they want to do with their costume on. Yeah. 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 I think we do have like a couple of people who dress up as Jedis and stuff for conventions. So whenever they get the chance to, or whenever they feel up to it, they will come in costume to like make sure that everything is still, feeling how it should feel. Yeah. Yeah. For them. So that like when they get back into the convention season and go back into Armageddon and stuff in costume, it's like, okay, I know what I can do. If somebody wanted to like fight me today, I could. Yeah. And make it obviously a show spectacle.
Yeah. So people take it seriously, right? Like the cosplay and things.
Oh yeah.
Like it was my first time going to Armageddon this year, and it was really cool seeing how many people took it seriously.
Oh, 100%. Like I have a lot of friends who are full on like seamstresses. Yeah. But they specialize in costuming.
That's sick.
So like to see the work that they put in with everything that they do, it's like, whoa, there's a lot of details in here that like I did not realize right from the start. Yeah. Yeah. And it's like, especially the like my friends who do mostly like ball gowns and stuff. Okay. Obviously based on specific characters and all that. It's like the stitching here is like actually really clean, and just like you start to look at these details up close, and it's like, wow, I didn't even think you could use that in that way. Yeah.
Are you into clothing?
I would say so. Yeah. I'm very much like trying to always up my fashion game, I would say, as a person. Okay. Yeah. I have surprisingly people think that I'm a very normal person, but like wait till you go into my room and see the 33 sneakers I have.
I saw your Sambas at the iconic celebrations. I saw your Sambas. I noticed those.
I mean, I walked in here wearing Dunks.
Yeah, I saw your Dunks.
Yeah. But I have I have a pretty reasonable like sneaker collection, I would say. Right. Yeah. Like for 33 sneakers, it's not the most, but at least for the ones that I do have, they're pretty up there. Yeah.
So what's your some of your treasures?
I would say, so I think for one, which I would actually put into a group, it's actually my my collection of Yeezys.
Yeezys, sure.
The only reason because I got all of them at retail price.
Really?
Yeah. None of my Yeezys, like not even like one of them, were resale.
Really?
Yep. I won all of them at loaded raffles, which is like really crazy to think. So that I think is like the main group of like sneakers that are sort of like my treasured sneakers. And then I think like one of the other ones isn't really a sneaker, but like is a shoe that I absolutely love, is my pair of RM William boots.
Oh yeah, is it Comfort Craftsman?
No, the Yearling.
The Yearling, okay.
So it's a Cuban heel boot.
Yes, it's a high heeled boots, right? Yeah. Interesting.
I wore those for with a really nice like forest green like suit. Okay. For a ball that I had organized for media design school. Yeah.
Yeah.
And like I will admit
okay.
it was a really good selection of clothing. I will admit.
Okay.
But even now I kind of just wear them almost like normal boots in a way. Kind of just as a thing to help with like my posture and stuff, because I do tend to slouch a lot. So
Yeah.
every so often I'll just like whip out the boots and be like, okay, I need to make sure that I'm up straight. I'm like in this kind of posture. My walk is correct and like not all flimsy and like inwards or outwards or whatever.
Yeah.
It's a really good just sort of, I guess, posture resetting tool in a way for me. Yeah.
What color is it?
It's just a standard like black smooth leather.
Okay.
Yeah.
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 No, that's sick.
But yeah, it's surprisingly very versatile to like, especially for like the silhouette that it is. But it works for quite a lot of things considering it's black.
Yeah.
So
Oh, can you tilt your microphone up then?
Yeah. There we go.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's better.
But yeah, it's been good. Yeah. Like
that's sick.
it's a great investment, I will admit.
RM Williams.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've been seriously looking at RM Williams. I've been wanting some boots. I've been searching for months now.
Yeah.
And a lot of people recommend RM Williams Comfort Craftsman.
100%. I would definitely recommend them. If I had the money again, I would definitely buy another set of Comfort Craftsman.
Yeah.
I would say.
So
Yeah.
have you got a Comfort Craftsman?
No, I don't. So the current boots that I have are a pair of like, I think it's 1461 Doc Martens
Okay.
or 1460 Doc Martens
Okay.
and those Yearling boots. Those are my only two boots that I have. And like, I mean, I would say for both like brands, I would definitely buy another pair of those boots like from either one of the two. But it will take a very, very specific situation to buy them.
Do you
I
mean
would
like in terms of
occasion, but also silhouette? Like if it's something that I genuinely want, like a new silhouette's come out, I would definitely buy them again. Or unless it's like I'm feeling uncomfortable with them and I need to get rid of them and buy a new pair.
Yeah.
I'd say. Yeah. Like I'm kind of considering that with my Doc Martens at the moment because like I bought them a size too small, but like it's not like in a bad way where it's like it's really small.
Yeah.
It's just that my toes get kind of crushed.
Would you go one size up or half a size up?
I would just go back to my true size, honestly. Yeah. So like I'm a size 11.5.
US?
US.
US 11.
Yeah.
Wow.
So like very common size, unfortunately.
Right.
But
11.5 is pretty big though, right?
I would say so. I know friends who are like size 13.
Yeah.
Or something like that.
That's huge.
So huge. But yeah, I mean, I bought my pair in like a size 10 and yeah, the only thing really is just that they kind of crush my toes a little bit.
Yeah.
But yeah, it gets to a point in the day if I'm wearing them the entire day where it's like I don't think I could wear these anymore.
Yeah.
Yeah. They're just too uncomfortable.
Right.
But you know. Yeah.
Doc Martens 1460, did you say?
I think it was the 1460.
What's that like?
It's a high top
Okay.
boot, lace up. Kind of almost like a military boot in a way, but not really. It's the one that you typically see a lot of people wearing, the like the high top black Doc Marten.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think I can picture it because I think I had 1762, which is like the Chelsea boot.
Ah, yeah.
Chelsea boot, and
Yeah. I think in terms of Chelsea boots, I would definitely go for RM Williams or Blundstone.
I've got a Blundstone actually.
Oh,
yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it's both made in. Actually, Blundstone is not made in Australia. It's designed or something in Australia, but it's made. They used to make it in Australia, but they now get it from overseas somewhere.
Oh yeah. No surprises, but you know, the boots are always a really good investment. I think. For just any wardrobe, I think. Just because you know, especially for what they've sort of made themselves out to be. They last quite a long time, I would say.
Yeah.
I think I remember listening to some video when I was like researching into docs to like see whether they're worth the purchase. And I think they said it was like, as long as you're maintaining them well and you keep up the routine of like cleaning them, adding new like balm to like make sure that the leather is soft and supple, they can last up to like 10 years.
Yeah.
which is
It's
great.
a long time.
Yeah,
It's
it's
a long
like it's
time.
great. So like that's kind of the consideration I've taken into buying boots now whenever I get the chance to.
Yes.
But at the moment, I've kind of just put a freeze on buying sneakers because I've just got way too much. I've just got way too much.
So do you mean like no shoe wear, no footwear for now?
Well, I mean, I've sort of like not. It's not really a case of like no more, like that's it.
Okay.
But like I've definitely reduced the amount that I purchase within a year.
Right.
I would say.
right.
Like literally this year, I've only purchased the Sambas and like maybe 2 other shoes.
Mm.
But like from like maybe like 2 years ago, even I was buying like 5 or 6 sneakers in a year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So that's probably like the bulk of my collection was just buying those like 5 or 6 sneakers in a year. And I was like, I can't do this anymore.
How do you find them usually? Do you see like a picture online? You're like, these are sick, and you get them, or do you go shopping?
At the moment, kind of the thing for me is actually looking at TikTok trends.
Yeah.
I would say, which I know very
Sambas is-
very bad practice to do at the moment because like you start going back into sort of normcore fashion, which is not my favorite, but it's at least versatile and like it's trustworthy.
Yeah.
But it's finding the sneakers that I definitely love, stuff like the Sambas, but then adapting the style in a way that I feel comfortable wearing.
Yeah.
Because I always like to think that when it comes to fashion, my 2 main aesthetics, or main 3 aesthetics, I should say, is soft boy, which is kind of like, varsity sweaters with like the collared shirt
Yeah.
and like jeans with like, like fairly large like dad shoes or something like that.
Yes.
Then it takes a 180 to go to tech wear,
Okay.
where I've got a reasonable size of like tech wear stuff, but it's obviously really expensive to get into.
Yeah. What techwear stuff have you got?
I've got a pair of pants that cost me like I think it was like $200, I think.
Okay.
Which is like the cheapest thing that I have, but they've
Yeah.
got like fidlock load bearing like straps. They're like 100% waterproof. They've got a changing silhouette. They've got hidden pockets everywhere.
Yeah.
And all that. And then I've also got like a sort of like a shirt, like a collared shirt like this, but again 100% waterproof. It was handmade in I think it was actually handmade in Malaysia even, which is the home country I'm from.
Oh yeah.
By a Kiwi guy, which is
Really?
really funny.
Where'd you get them?
So I mentioned this in Iconics podcast as well, but I am somewhat acquaintances with Mulawin and Cyrus, who are both amazing graphic designers, or they've at least turned their brand into a graphic design agency.
Yeah.
But they ran a store called Platform, which was located actually near my area, near the old Mount Eden train station, which I think is about to finish up now.
Okay.
But they used to import a lot of like I would say really expensive but very versatile pieces from a lot of brands that I didn't know until that point, until I started to know them. So a lot of the pieces that I actually do have are from these brands, including the shirt that I got, which is actually from a brand called Garuda.
Right.
And yeah, like the whole shtick with that brand is they use I think it's a material called shawl, and essentially what it is a Swiss kind of textile, but it's very stretchable, and it has a lot of these really just, I guess, sort of flexible qualities.
Okay.
But also very water resistant.
Right.
Like if you try to pour a glass of water on it, it just beads off.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's crazy.
And there's no like coatings or anything.
Yeah.
It's just the fabric
The
and
fabric.
how tightly knitted it is.
Is it like a natural fabric or
I think it's
kind of
a
plasticky?
I think it's like a plastic.
Yeah.
Like a polymer kind of thing. But yeah, it's like so tightly weaved that it's like just water completely beads off it.
Yeah.
Yeah. But yeah, like I've got a couple of pieces from like that are like tech wear like ish. But I think the third one that I also need to mention is workwear.
Workwear.
Like I do a lot of just like Carhartt, I do a lot of Levi's,
Yes.
and like a lot of like these just more functional like bits that kind of go well together. Like when it comes to workwear and that sort of like side of things, the one brand that I do go to a lot is Checks Downtown up at Pitt Street.
Yeah.
Love those guys to bits. Genuinely love the guys to bits. And they've put out a lot of different pieces that I absolutely love. Like I think I haven't bought the entire set yet, but I've been wanting to buy their ripstop tailored like suit.
Okay.
And essentially what it is, it's just like this really oversized sort of light brown khaki like blazer and a triple pleated pant, which are both made of ripstop fabric.
What's ripstop?
It's kind of like it's like a plasticky sort of fabric, again, very tightly knitted, tightly weaved. And yeah, it's kind of the same stuff that you see a lot of like rain jackets actually made out of.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So it's really like it's a really interesting sort of fit.
Yeah.
But also really interesting fabrics as well. Yeah.
That is really interesting. I didn't know Checks did suit kind of things.
They've recently brought it back, but they used to do them like way back at like 2017, 2018, where they created like a bunch of suits from like more wool, I think it was, like more like thicker fabrics for like the winter seasons.
Yeah.
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 But yeah, they've only just recently gotten back into it with this one specific suit set that they've got.
Oh, that's really cool. That's really cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, because I used to work around there. Because there's Checks on Ponsonby Road, right?
Checks. So they used to be on High Street.
Oh, sorry, K Road. Oh,
Yeah, they're in K Road and Pitt
Road.
Street now.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But they used to be on High Street in the sort of basement store next to Trainers.
Okay.
Yeah. But they sort of moved out. I think Trainers then bought the lease for that specific area and then actually cut the wall out so that now they've got that large store dedicated all to them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
But yeah, now they've got this like really nice storefront. If you do manage to go up there, it's pretty much the one store on the corner of the AS Color.
Yes.
And it's the giant orange storefront.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's their store.
Yeah.
And like it's a really nice space, I would have to admit.
So it's your favorite. It's probably your favorite clothing brand.
I would say so, or at least local clothing brand.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I do have quite a few.
Yeah.
That I would love to buy from.
Okay.
But the only issue being is that just import prices and just prices in general.
Yeah. 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 What are some of the brands?
I think in terms of like international brands, I would say the one that I'm leaning most to is ALD, Armé Leon d'Or.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
And I absolutely love like sort of like the stuff that they have from there, but it's just the prices, man.
So expensive.
Yeah. And then I've also recently, like, this is going to sound a little bit pretentious, but like one of the other brands that I've been really loving at the moment is Loewe.
Oh, okay.
Like I've just been seeing all of their bags and stuff.
Yeah.
And like I've always like just wanted really nice bags.
Yeah.
And I've always said this as like sort of one of my mantras when it comes to fashion, that like when it comes to high fashion brands, stuff like Gucci, Louis Vuitton, Dior, Prada, the main thing I would want to invest to is actually their bags, not the actual like clothing. Because if you've seen like Louis Vuitton and Gucci, especially recently, their clothing is terrible. And I'm saying this from a personal bias. But the bags, like the bags are the classic quintessential pieces that come from those brands. Like those brands were built on, like, especially Louis Vuitton, they were built on making bags and cases and all those sorts of things. But the people just know them for clothing now, which is kind of like sad in all honesty. Yeah. So I would like, if I had the chance to, then I would just invest in the bags. But
yeah,
hey, money's money. So,
because how much do you have a like specific bag in mind?
Especially for Loewe, it's the puzzle bag.
Puzzle bag.
It's like a yay sized sort of handbag ish kind of thing. But from what I've seen online, people have been able to fit quite a lot of stuff into it.
Okay.
So like I think even for the larger sizes, I don't remember if they've got larger sizes, but there were even some setups where basically they fit an entire like 15-inch MacBook into it, which is what I have at the moment.
Yeah.
I have a 14-inch like MacBook Pro that's like completely souped out, but being able to fit something like that into such a small package is great. Like that's what I would love to have just if I had the luxury to buy one.
Would you buy secondhand?
I wouldn't mind. I mean, at least it means that it's, you know, it's had love gone into it. It's not, you know, fresh off the line, and it's not so, you know, rigid, I would say. It's actually had some time to kind of just mature a little bit before it kind of, you know, deteriorates.
Yeah. You should look into that.
Yeah, definitely. I've definitely looked into it, but at the same time, with how the fashion market is currently, with so many people trying to scalp off each other, not worth it. Even still.
Yeah.
Because like I even see like some of the most like, you know, standard shoes, right? Like the Sambas, especially when they first when was it? It was like when the Wales Bonner original Sambas came out. All the Sambas just skyrocketed in price because everybody was buying Sambas.
Yeah.
But now they've kind of just dialed back a little bit.
Yes.
And they've gotten back to that standard price, I think.
Yeah.
But yeah, like it's kind of a hard task to kind of manage, like seeing what prices are going where and kind of just where the prices are going to lean to, I would say. Yeah.
Yeah, it's tough. It's something that you kind of have to keep an eye on like every day almost.
Yeah, for sure.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah. Because speaking of high fashion, recently I've been getting into like fashion and I've been looking more and more into like the designer clothing. And yeah, like since then, like my philosophy on fashion and clothing has like completely changed.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, but it's a lot of fun, but at the same time, like I spend a lot of time on like, because naturally, like I get into them and I start liking a couple of brands and I want pieces from that, right?
Yeah.
But it's like I definitely wouldn't buy at, you know, retail price.
Oh, 100%.
Yeah. And trying to get like a good deal on those. Yeah, like full time thing, you know?
Yeah, for sure. Like, I mean, I even noticed your pants. Like, we have the same pants.
Oh, really?
From Hallenstein's, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And
Good taste.
Well, I mean, the thing being is that I've always wanted the original like Issey Miyake plissé pants, right? But you find it and it's like,
bro,
why is the price so expensive?
Yeah.
Like, I understand for the construction, but like at the same time, dude, it's so expensive.
It's so expensive. How much would that be? Like, it's like definitely over K. I think it's 1.2K.
Yeah.
Is there something? It's something like that, right?
Yeah. And like it's mainly because like one, Issey Miyake already is a pretty high fashion brand, probably like a B tier brand. Like if we're putting everything into sort of consideration of the general market.
Yeah.
But like on top of that, you've also got the hype of like so many different content creators making like outfit videos with the en plissé pants when they were in their prime.
Yeah.
So like to see Hallenstein's actually coming out with something like that is great, but at the same time, I don't like supporting them that much.
Yeah, it's tough.
Yeah.
It's tough because it is definitely a more affordable alternative.
Yeah, for sure.
But at what cost, you know?
Oh,
At what cost?
Yeah. Like, I think I noticed even for like, you know, have you seen the like leisure club like hoodies that a lot of people are wearing currently?
Nah, I probably would recognize it if I saw it. Yeah.
So that's like another sort of, I guess, capsule that they've done at Hallenstein's. And like, it's pretty obvious that the cut, the design, the printing on it, very reminiscent of Porter James Sports.
Right.
And I know the guy who created that. And it's like to see like that design sort of take off at Hallenstein's sucks. It genuinely sucks.
Yeah.
Cause like I would much rather go to him, buy stuff from Porter James Sports, and then rep that instead. Because, you know, I do like, don't get me wrong, I love supporting Kiwi brands, but at the same time I can't support a brand that steals from other brands.
And Porter James Sports is a Kiwi brand too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, and same goes with Earl Collection, because Earl Collection was also started by the same guy.
Right.
But that's gotten too big. Well, that's gotten really big. He's sold the brand, obviously, but then also Howland Science has gone out of their way to also copy how they did their basketball shorts with like the text right in the middle of the crotch.
Right.
And it's like, it's a cheap alternative, but at the same time, at what cost?
Yeah. If anything, like looking into these designer brands and kind of being more aware of like the fast fashion industry and things, I think I really get to appreciate like, because designer clothing, like these days, it's associated a lot with like consumerism, right? But I almost started thinking it's almost the opposite.
Oh, really?
Yeah, like that's what I started thinking. I think you can definitely abuse it to the level of consumerism.
Yeah.
But you can say that about fast fashion too. You can say that about like, more affordable clothing like Cotton On and Hallensteins. Because if you are buying things because you can afford it and you can buy it, not because you love it.
Yeah.
I think that falls under consumerism. And same with like designer things. Like if you are buying it just because of the brand, just because it's got Gucci written on it.
Yeah.
Like maybe some people will love it and you buy it. I don't think that's consumerism.
Yeah.
But I think you're buying that just because it's Gucci and you can show other people.
Yeah.
Like yeah. So I think there would be consumerism too.
Yeah, for sure. Like I don't tend to buy because of the name. I tend to buy because I know the inventory that I have for my clothing.
Yeah.
And I know how I can style it in such a way that it feels like it fits with my sort of style.
Yeah.
And like it just so happens that, it's probably something from Gucci. It's probably something from Louis Vuitton.
Yeah.
But like I'm styling it in such a way where I feel comfortable wearing it, but also get to show it off in a way that isn't so like in your face as well. Because like you see so many people walking around these days, like they're wearing like Balenciaga triple S's with like Gucci track pants with like a Louis Vuitton shirt or something like that. You're mixing like all these different brands and it just looks so textbook bad. And it's just like, there is no style to this.
Yeah.
You're not putting the effort to make yourself look how you want to look. And then like you go online and just like you see the guy doing, essentially the same thing, like, and then leveling it up so that it actually looks good. And it's like, that's what I want to see in people.
Yeah.
That's how I want people to make themselves feel. And I think even like I've started to like reach out to my friends being like, what we should do is we should like plan a shopping trip for your partners and then drag them out so that we can style them.
Right.
Because like, I'm not going to lie, just being around them, they just look like hobos. I'm not going to lie. Like they're just throwing together stuff and it just doesn't look good. Like, I get it. It's probably comfortable.
Yes.
But at the same time, like, you're doing that even in public. You're not making yourself look presentable even in public. And it kind of not worries me, but it worries, like, sort of a secondhand worry, where it's like their partner probably feels really embarrassed about the fact that they're standing next to them and they look really good, but they don't, like, their partner doesn't.
Yeah.
So it's kind of like, get in, loser, we're going shopping.
I think there is a world you can dress well and be comfortable.
Exactly. Yeah.
You can do that.
For sure.
And I think it's important to dress to the occasion too. Not to say that, I think there's a lot of stigma. One thing I find, there's a lot of stigma in clothing and spending, like putting effort in clothing and putting effort in like what you wear and things.
Yeah.
Because a lot of people will say, oh, there's stigma around it saying like, you shouldn't care about what other people think. But I don't think it's that. I think, sure, like some people would do that. But I think there's more to that. I think there's a lot to say about like taking care of yourself.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Like you got to make yourself feel comfortable before you deal with your outward appearance. I would say, like, I've had, for example, like I've had psoriasis for like maybe 4 or 5 years now.
What's psoriasis?
So that's what all these like sort of red patches on my body are. It's essentially like my immune system is producing more skin than it should,
Right.
and it starts to like peel in a really bad way. It's it's sort of in the same category as eczema, but worse, because like I have it over my entire body.
Right.
But I've come to a point now where I'm like, I can't be bothered. I can't be bothered trying to treat this. I might as well just let it run its course and just live with it. And like, I'm very much happy with how I dress now, and like, you know, sort of in a way wearing this proudly, saying that I have psoriasis. I don't give two shits about it.
Yeah.
So like, it's there, and it's not like, in ways it's comfortable, not comfortable, but I just have to live with it. I can't really do too much about it. And I kind of build my sort of style around that to make sure that I am comfortable at any situation to like have this, essentially.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Did it take work to do that?
Not really. It's a lot of just trial and error.
Yeah.
Really. Just making sure that like, hey, I'm finding the right pieces that are, you know, of the right materials, so that at least I feel comfortable in it, the right shape, so that at least I feel comfortable wearing it with my body. And it's really just trial and error. Just seeing what you like and just running with it if you feel comfortable with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For sure. Man, gotta say, at the Iconic, when I first saw you, you're well dressed. I was like, okay, because I heard your podcast first, and I heard you talk about checks and like things. Yeah. And I was like, I think he's into fashion. And I saw you at the Iconic celebration. I'm like, I can tell with your sambas on, you know? Yeah. So what's the outfit of the day, Dylan?
So I've got a pair of Kentucky Dunks that are downstairs, obviously. Those were bought at retail. A pair of, I think it's Levi's 505 and a light wash denim that I actually got from Kilo on K Road. If you don't know what they are, they're basically a vintage store that, instead of like pricing their like clothing individually, they do it by weight. So you would think that these cost like $100 and something.
Yeah.
Nah, 45.
45. Yeah.
For a really decent pair of jeans, which I do need to actually do a bit of tailoring on. Okay. But that's beside the point. I've got an AS color women's ribbed singlet underneath, which like it's great.
Right.
It's a really good go-to piece. And then actually the shirt that I'm wearing is actually just a shirt from Hallenstein's as well.
Yeah.
Yeah. So like, for the most part, like, I'm comfortable with this.
Why women's?
So it's really interesting. Like, the fit that I was trying to go for was kind of stick to skin, but not really.
Yeah.
I basically wanted something that like would look slimming in, but obviously with my body, which like I've realized now that I'm getting a little bit, you know, side heavy now.
Right.
I wanted to make sure that like I could find something that could work for all situations. If I wanted to wear a singlet. And going to like, you know, the typical stores that you go to find stuff like this, very hard to find, surprisingly. It's only just recently that a lot of people are starting to get into stuff like ribbed singlets.
Yeah.
So when I first saw these actually on the women's rack at an AS Color, I was like, I kind of want to try that and see how I feel. Because like, another philosophy that I have is that clothing shouldn't have a gender.
That's true.
Although I buy a lot of very masculine clothing, clothing shouldn't be a gender.
That's true.
And like, it's even present in like, what is it? The new Hunger Games film that just came out, where me and one of my other friends were picking apart a certain scene where it was the showing off the academy students' uniform. And what it is like, it's this really nice sort of two-piece suit in like a crimson color with like a light blue mandarin collar shirt.
Okay.
But the pants had a full pleated skirt on it as well. And this was both on the mask presenting and the femme presenting students. So it was a all-round uniform that was being worn on every student.
Yeah.
And it's like, this is what I mean by fashion should not have a gender.
Yeah.
Because every one of those cast members look freaking amazing in it.
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, people should do this more.
Right.
You know? Yeah. Like, you know, skirts are skirts. It's gonna like get some like you're gonna get some like stares at you. But like if you feel confident in it, rock it.
For sure.
Rock it. Like there's a lot of history behind skirts. Obviously kilts, punk rock, grunge, just underground essentially. But like skirts were being worn by both genders like throughout history. So I don't see why, like, especially guys should be ashamed by wearing a skirt.
Yeah.
Like, it's something that our forefathers had actually worn in previous years, depending on which culture you come from. So, yeah, I don't see that much of a problem with it. But coming back to it, it's like, I was wanting, I didn't really take it as like a women's piece at first, because when I saw it on, when I wore it, the singlet, I was like, this fits really well. Like, I'm really tempted to just buy 2 of these, and which I did.
Yeah.
I bought one in white and I bought one in
Heck
black.
yeah. Nice.
And I was like, I was talking to the clerk that I was getting attended to, and I was like, you guys need to make this in like a men's fit as well. And they were like, I don't think we actually thought about that. I didn't think that guys would actually buy this. But we've had like maybe 2 or 3 other guys come in our store this week buying this specific singlet. It's like, really? And you didn't think of it. So, hey, like,
business ideas.
Yeah. And I mean, like, yeah, here we are. It's like, now I'm wearing this pretty confidently, even though it's hidden. But it's, you know, if I wanted to, you know, rip the shirt open, it's going to look good.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
Yeah.
No, for sure. Like, one of my realization this year was that, oh shit, like I can actually shop at women's too. So I went to Levi's to get a couple of 501s, and I was shopping, and then I was like, wait, hold up. Like, there's like one section of the shop which is like men's, and the other section is like women's. But someone told me that women's trousers are a bit high, they have a bit more higher waist things, and they said they can help with making you appear a bit taller, having like a bit longer legs and stuff.
Yeah.
And you know what I need. So I was shopping at women's section, and then there was my kind of like my first time shopping at women's section.
Yeah.
And tried on a couple of trousers from there. I didn't end up buying them because couldn't find one that fit me nicely.
Right.
But since then, I'm like, that's when I realized, whoa, like I can shop at women's section too.
Yeah.
So when I go to like secondhand stores or any other shops that I like, I have a look at women's section, see if you know if I
there's
like
anything
anything.
that pops
Yeah.
up. Yeah. Like even when like I was sort of proxy buying from like Uniqlo, because my parents like every so often will go back to Malaysia to go and just deal with family things, right? The standard sort of like family oriented holiday. If I wasn't going with them, I would ask them, hey, I have a list for stuff that I want from Uniqlo.
Nice.
Can you get them for me?
Yes.
I would provide them the list. And I think there was one year where my dad went by himself, and I asked him to buy me a pair of the wide pleated trousers from the women's section.
Yeah. Heck yeah.
First pair that he brought back, which was the only pair he brought back, I tried them on the night that he got into the house. Perfect fit.
That's so sick.
Absolutely perfect fit. And it's like, this is really good because like they fit how I exactly thought that they were going to fit. And seeing them both on men and women on like say TikTok and seeing how they style it, and it's like, this is great.
Yeah.
I love this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you still have that?
Yeah. I still wear them all the time.
Oh, that's so sick.
Yeah. Yeah. And they're great. They're absolutely great. Yeah. And I just can't wait to really go back wherever I can to a Uniqlo and like see if they've actually got more stuff in the women's section from there.
Yeah.
Because like it's surprising like how they haven't seen the market demand for like New Zealand especially. Like everybody like especially in like I guess our generation are starting to realize that Cotton On, Hallenstein's, H&M, not the best quality.
Nah, not at all.
Yeah. And I had this weird superstition assumption situation that the H&M that's currently on the Commercial Bay building,
Yes.
down by the Britomart and all that, I thought that was going to be a Uniqlo.
Right.
I was so hoping it was going to be a Uniqlo.
Yeah.
But then, you know what? It's an H&M.
Wasn't there a talk that Uniqlo was coming, but then it fell apart for something? Or am I thinking of the Hard Rock Cafe or something?
I'm not too sure, actually.
Right.
Yeah.
But I'm so gutted and surprised that Uniqlo isn't here.
Yeah. I mean, they should start seeing the demand now, especially with how, I guess, reasonably well H&M is doing.
Yeah.
How well Costco's doing.
Yeah.
And, next year we're expecting an IKEA.
Yeah.
So, hey, if that takes off, that kind of should be in, a sign for American and Japanese companies to be like, hey, hello,
Yeah.
there's a demand here for your kind of brands. Bring them over,
Honestly, because when my friends go over to Australia, they're always told, oh, when you're there, go shopping and go Uniqlo.
Yeah, for sure.
So demand is definitely there. And as far as fast fashion goes, I think Uniqlo is as good as it gets.
Very much so. Yeah. I have a few of the Uniqlo U, just standard white tees.
Yes.
And they're just so comfortable to wear in comparison to an AS Color t-shirt.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, AS Color is great, but you just can't go wrong with the weight quality of a Uniqlo U t-shirt.
Yeah.
That it's I've always said this, that if I ever make the plans to go to a trip to Japan,
Yeah.
empty suitcase. Genuinely empty suitcase. Bring a ton of money.
Yeah.
First stop, straight to Uniqlo. I'm buying every single piece of Uniqlo.
Yeah. They would be sick. They would be so much fun.
It would be.
Yeah.
But the reason for that is that I would actually find genuine use out of it.
Yeah.
I'm going to wear those pieces even after the trip, because I know Uniqlo's quality is probably the best you can get for the price
Yes.
that you get. And hell, even Japan just has a really good economy when it comes to fashion, because there's a lot of these sort of op shops, vintage shops and all that, selling, vintage sneakers, vintage high fashion clothing and all that for actually reasonable prices that we don't have in New Zealand.
Yeah. Yeah. I think because I've been getting into designer fashion, like I was saying before, and because I've been wanting to get it secondhand, I've been looking into proxy.
Yeah.
And it's usually from Japan because there are just more things available there, and therefore there are more people selling products that I might want.
For sure.
And therefore it's cheaper just because there's more stuff there.
Yeah.
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 And I think New Zealand, I think something that's equivalent that I found in New Zealand, something that's equivalent to that is R.M. Williams.
Yes.
It's a lot cheaper here than compared to the US.
Yeah. Or even Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would say so. Even
Yeah.
Australia. Yeah.
Wow. Because here, you buy pair of Comfort Craftsman's, and I think it's $750 or something like that.
Yeah, something around there. Yeah.
I think in the US, I think it's around 1,000 or even more than 1,000 or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
They consider that a pretty up there brand when it
Yeah.
comes to that sort of workwear shoe. Yeah.
But you see this everywhere here.
Yeah.
The R.M. Williams.
Yeah. It's because people know the quality and they trust the quality.
Yeah.
So it's not just about the brand anymore. It's about the actual make and craft of the shoe.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's sounds like it's worth it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, coming back to even just Japan in general, right? I would also just love to go there just to do photography.
Yeah.
I have so many photographer friends who have gone to Japan for cosplay events around Halloween. And I think there was even there's even a story about there's an event in, I think, Shibuya that essentially they open up the streets for a couple nights and let cosplayers run wild.
It's so sick.
But the best part is that you have all of these really high quality photographers also going to Shibuya at the same
Sure.
time, and they're picking up these cosplayers,
Yeah.
not weirdly at all, obviously,
Yeah.
but like getting these really cool photos of just their cosplays in like an urban setting, and I'm like,
So
oh my god, I just want to go.
that's so sick.
Yeah. And just in general, like, I mean, I love like in terms of the photography that I do in Auckland, it's a lot of cosplay photography, it's a lot of portraiture, those sorts of things. But whenever I get the chance to, I also just love doing landscape photography.
Right.
Like, I love just going out into the wild with a camera and just shooting photos, because I just love, like, it's the one aspect of like doing stuff like nature walks and stuff that I absolutely love. It's just bringing a camera with me
Yeah.
and just seeing what comes up and just taking photos of it, really. And like, I feel like that would be the same thing for when I go to Japan. If I ever go to Japan, it would just be taking my camera with me, or even buying a new camera while I'm there,
Yeah.
and then just seeing what comes up and taking a photo of it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's so sick. I've been to Japan once, just for a week, so not long. But one of those countries, you can't take any photo anywhere.
Yeah.
Like, even just like random side street, just looks so aesthetic.
I know.
I don't understand
Yeah.
why that is.
Yeah. And like, obviously we live in this shithole. well, I mean, taking into consideration where it's like, you know, the layout of Auckland is not, it doesn't work for that kind of photo that you see that comes out of like, say, Japan, or you know, Europe or something like that. Like, we don't have the aestheticness within, like, say, the CBD that allows for that kind of thing.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, we don't.
Like, I see way too many tourists these days, especially now that it's cruise ship season. Like, I see way too many tourists trying to do the same thing. Like, you know, the photo that you get once a year in like New York, where the sun, as it does at sunset, kind of lines up perfectly with like a New York strip.
Okay.
Yeah.
Right.
They try to do that with like Queen Street.
Right.
It doesn't work. It
doesn't
genuinely
work.
does not work.
You're standing there, smells like piss.
Yeah. Smells like piss or weed or something like that.
Someone's yelling at you, get out the way, you know?
Yeah. It's just like, it just doesn't work. It genuinely doesn't work. And like, the side streets are just too highly developed,
Right.
that it doesn't have that serene, picturesque, like, back alley street that, say, Japan has, where like they are very tight knit alleyways that have like really pretty neon signs that you can do a long exposure with at night.
Right.
And it's just, there's just no, I want to say substance. I think is the best way to put it. There's no like substance with Auckland. Like, you get the limelight and stuff, but there's just no substance.
Is it because it's fairly a young country?
Maybe.
So maybe
that might be the case. Yeah.
maybe the like its own unique personality hasn't developed yet.
Yeah. I think that might be the
don't know.
case. Yeah. I mean, even like Wellington has probably got more personality than Auckland.
Yeah, for sure.
At this point.
That's for sure.
Yeah. Like, I think when it comes to Auckland, like, what was it? I think one of the videos I've seen pop up every so often, which I always remember, is the like top 5 things to do when you enter Auckland. Number 1, leave. Like, genuinely, everybody just thinks like Auckland is the worst place to be, which is like, I mean, fair enough.
As a tourist, I don't know. I wouldn't recommend Auckland.
No, I would not.
Yeah.
Something like Rotorua, Taupo,
Yes.
Queenstown, for sure.
Yes.
Yeah.
For sure. Like, as a tourist, I mean, say I'm visiting New Zealand just to travel for the first time. I'll probably visit Auckland because it's one of the biggest cities. You're like, I gotta check this out. But yeah, where would I go? I mean, there's the museum, the art gallery,
The mountains.
the Mount Eden and stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, but I mean, it's convenient living here, but visiting here and traveling around, probably not the best place.
Yeah. Like, I mean, we are kind of still in that housing crisis kind of mood at the moment, where it's like houses are extremely hard to purchase for our generation.
Yeah.
And like, I mean, not to get too deep into it, but like, I'm in like a really good spot where I am. and like I know for a fact that I'm going to inherit my house one day.
Mm.
So like I've got a safe bet. But for people who are immigrating to New Zealand and trying to get a house here, you're going to have to go all the way out of Auckland to get a house at like a really decent price. And even then, a decent price there is probably like 1 mil still. And it's like, how are you supposed to manage that? Like, if you're trying to get jobs in the CBD, you have to go all the way like 1 hour outside of Auckland.
Yeah.
Hell, 2 hours in rush hour traffic.
Yeah.
So it's like, yeah, we're like, it's so hard to just, I guess, immigrate to New Zealand now.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And that kind of adds to the whole thing of like the whole photography thing, where it's like with these new developments especially, it looks so plain and basic
Right.
that like as Auckland grows bigger and starts to take over the entirety of the North Island at this point, like you're going to be seeing essentially the same thing over and over and over again for every single suburb. And it's going to be like, well, you're either going to be dealing with, you know, townhouses that look exactly the same all the way down the street, or high-rise buildings that are way too futuristic than your mind can comprehend. Yeah. So what can you do? Just get out of Auckland.
Or AI edit the background.
Oh my God. Yeah. Just AI edit the background.
Yeah.
Just get rid of it. No, none of it. No.
Cheaper option. But you know, it would be sick. I think I highly recommend Japan. You should go to Japan.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's definitely on the bucket list for sure. I think Japan and actually going back to America are like my two big bucket list items.
Right.
Yeah. And then followed really closely behind by actually going to the UK.
Yeah.
Because the one thing that a lot of people kind of are surprised to learn about me is that I'm actually a 16th Scottish.
Okay.
Yeah.
So 16th. So I'm thinking one generation. Okay. So it's 2 generations?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Okay.
like on my mother's side, my grandfather, I think, is the most recent person to have passed away who was a majority Scottish.
Right.
So he was like, I think more or less half and half, like Chinese Scottish. But we've traced, I think like last couple of years or so, we've traced back our sort of Scottish lineage to apparently a very small town in like, I think it's close to Edinburgh. All of them are relatives
Okay.
of my like Scottish clan's lineage.
Okay.
Yeah.
So what's going on? What's going on there? A bit of a. Is it like
I don't think it's what we think it is.
Yeah.
But like it's kind of just a like, I think it's kind of more the situation that like they've scattered for a bit and then returned back to this sort of like home ground kind of thing. Yeah. Because like the far reaches of like the clan have like gone super far.
Right.
Because my mother's maiden name, which I'm not going to reveal, is a very like common last name, at least from what I've seen.
Yeah.
So there are a lot of people with the same last name, which we're assuming is probably because they have the same lineage with that clan, but some more than others.
Yeah.
Yeah. And yeah, like there is a surprisingly small population within that town that are the Chinese Scottish heritage.
Yeah.
So that's probably where we came from.
Interesting.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, you have to visit then.
For sure.
Yeah.
For
See
sure.
What's this like there?
Yeah. We have a lot of places we want to go. We just haven't had the time nor the availability.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Is it when you say we? Is it you and your family?
Yeah, family. Yeah, because I remember my mother really wanted to take my grandmother to Scotland to meet with her sisters and her relatives, but unfortunately she passed away in the last 2 years. So it's been a little bit hard in that sense, but I think my parents are still kind of like vying for the fact that they at least want to take me there.
Yeah.
But there's just too much going on at the moment, plus at the fact of like we always have to go back to Malaysia at some point every year. So yeah, there's quite a bit going on, if anything.
Yeah. It's always the struggle of finding time, and availability, like you said.
Yeah.
Like people working, and it's not easy.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it doesn't help with the fact that I'm very much a jack of all trades. So I've got my hands in like so many different projects as well. Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. And before I'm gonna ask you a bunch of questions, Dylan.
Yeah.
But before that, talking about outfit of the day, we should also shout out Iconic Chaos, the hat you're wearing.
Yeah, for sure. It's funny. I now have 2 of them.
Okay.
I have 2 of these exact same hats.
Oh, it's like same color?
Yep.
Okay.
Same colors, same everything.
Yeah.
The only difference being that one of them is signed by all these different content creators, which I should have brought with me, but I was in a rush this morning.
Yeah.
But yeah, I've got it signed by like so many of my friends, or so many creators who have now become my friends,
Right.
and who I absolutely adore and admire so much, being in their presence and stuff, because all of them just make me want to strive for something greater than myself.
Okay.
Not in the sense of like, I'm going to join the army, but like, I want to become another sort of person for the people, I would say. And like, become one of those people that you can rely on for whatever content I do, that is. Yeah. But like, I've got it signed by so many people, and it's starting to fill up, which is really funny.
That's cool.
So it looks insane. But when I went to Iconic's place to go do his podcast, I was like, since I'm here, I kind of want to get another one of these hats, because honestly, when I wore it at Armageddon, oh my God, did I feel good in it.
It's a sick hat.
It's a really nice hat.
I love the color. It's off-white, right? It's not quite white, right?
Yeah, it's like kind of a creamish.
Creamy, yeah.
Yeah.
I like that.
kind of color. Yeah, but I absolutely love this hat. Like,
Yeah.
I like it, whenever you see me in a hat, it's like either this hat or it's a Porter James sports hat. It's either one of the two, nothing else.
Yeah.
And to think I have like so many other hats as well, but like even then it's kind of like, I'm just gonna go back to this one thing.
Yeah, man.
Yeah.
Nah, it suits you. It suits you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like I'm very surprised at how good it looked, which is exactly why I wanted to get another one.
Do you usually go for like that kind of trucker hat style?
So not really. It's only been a recent thing, like seeing what with this hat especially. I'm very much either no hat or a beanie.
Yeah.
But obviously beanies are kind of just one season specific.
Yes.
Or in our case, 3 season specific.
Yeah.
So like to now have this open option to like have a hat is nice, at least.
Yeah.
It's a like not really a big change for me, because it's just another piece of clothing, but people, whenever I wear it around them, it's like, you're wearing a hat. This is weird. And it's like, it's not that weird. It's just a hat.
It's the hat.
It's just a hat.
Come on, people.
Yeah.
Experimentation.
Yeah.
Different styles.
Yeah.
Yeah. No, that's a sick hat. Okay, let's get into this segment, Dylan.
Yeah.
But before that, I'm just gonna take a quick break so I can go to the toilet.
Yeah.
Cool. We're
Cool.
back.
Hello.
Hello, everyone. So, Dylan.
Yeah.
I mean, I've been asking you a lot of questions, but I've got this section called Cow Questions, where we ask just kind of more of a random question. It's basically like giving myself an excuse to ask just random questions out of context to the guests.
Yeah.
So, I've got 10 questions here.
Okay.
And it's something like this. So, question number 1. What is the smallest thing for which you are grateful for?
Oh, the smallest thing that I'm most grateful for. I guess it's honestly my this is gonna sound so stupid, but my mental stability.
Yeah?
Because like, considering that I dip my toes into so many different projects and so many different avenues of life, like, I'm surprised that I'm still sane after all of it. Like, I don't know how I'm managing it, but something in my brain is like turning the cogs constantly, and it's just working in a way that I'm like, I can handle this. This is fine. Like, it's okay.
What do you think it is? Your upbringing?
I don't think it's my upbringing, but also at the same time, I do think it is. Like, it's kind of a hard thing to really place the roots into, because like, there's so many factors that could have possibly gone into it. Like, my upbringing, it could be how I guess not really isolationist I am, but like how I guess how well I've done sort of just managing myself.
Yeah.
But yeah, I feel like there's a bunch of different avenues that could have contributed to this that have sort of turned it into a sort of lifestyle that I can actually handle, even though that, like, you know, it looks like I'm doing a lot. Like, a lot of people really do tell me, like, man, you're doing a lot.
And it's true.
Yeah.
It is a lot.
But hey, I mean, it's working for me.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, for sure. I was gonna get into another question, but let's come back to that.
Yeah.
Question number 2. What's the most selfish thing you've done?
Selfish thing. I actually don't, like, it's very hard to sort of put my, like, sort of thought into that, because I don't really think a lot of my actions that I've done have really been selfish. They've always been sort of like for the greater good, in a way. Like, yeah, like it's really hard to like place a specific anecdote to it.
Yeah.
But I know for a fact that they're like, it's one of those things where it's like, I don't think I've done this in a place of malice or in a place of self, like just self, I guess. But I know that down the line, something will come back to me and be like, because you've done this action, I have to, you know, thank you for this, or I have to, you know, do whatever for this. And it's like, take it as I please. All right, sweet, easy. Yeah.
So that's kind of your, almost like a way of your life then, like.
I would say so, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's something that I've always kind of just leaned towards as like a, if something were to come, it comes.
Yeah.
And it shouldn't be something that I should
Right.
stray away from a certain path to do.
I see.
Which I guess kind of falls into the idea of like, yeah, not many of the actions that I've done that I can remember off the top of my head have been for a selfish reason. They've always been for some other ulterior motive that kind of goes down that path that I've always wanted to track.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Kind of, well, I don't know. It's like, there's a specific quote that I'm thinking of from Loki, actually. Almost like, it was probably something to do with like Ouroboros or something like that. But like, yeah, it's one of those things where it's like, you know, there's a path that you're meant to take and you shouldn't really stray from that path, but no matter what actions you do, will always come back to that path. Like, no matter what you do, when you do it, or how you do it, you're always going to come back to that sacred timeline.
Yeah.
Yeah, essentially.
And do you actively believe in that?
Very much so, I would say. It's one of those like sort of things that I always keep and like keep at the forefront of my thoughts most of the time.
Do you think things are meant to happen then? Things that happen?
Yes, but I would also say I don't have that much of a belief in karma either.
Okay.
Because it's like one of those things where it's like, karma is karma. It's like things are going to happen depending on your actions, but at the same time, like there's a lot of things that you should also not expect to happen.
Right.
Like it's sort of like karma is a thing, but also expect the unexpected, because you never know what's going to happen from the causality of your actions. Yeah. So, yeah, I would say that is a big part in how I sort of like run life in a way. Yeah.
Do you think all our stories are already written and it's just playing it out now?
There is part of me that does think that, but at the same time, I also think that you need to have some breathing room to like really, edit your own story as well.
Yeah.
And find a way to sort of not think of it as such a like, I must go down this path, but sort of I should go down this path, but if there's a better solution to get to a certain like point B, I should take it.
Right.
Yeah.
Maybe you saying that is also written.
You never know. That's the thing. That's the thing.
Maybe we're part of like someone's D&D character. Maybe we're part of just someone's imagination.
You never know that if
Right.
like if the moon landing was real and actually when you go out to space it's just like 5 different guys like rolling dice on a table.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And someone's built all this world.
It's like I'm not religious, but like maybe it's just like maybe the gods are literally just 5 just sweaty old men who are just rolling dice on a table being like, that's a critical. What does that do? What does that do?
Just having a drink.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Having a
Yeah.
drink.
Yeah. Maybe there is a god out there, but the god is actually just a dungeon master.
And the sun is like, because the sun will eventually run out of its power and energy, right?
Yeah.
And maybe that's just them end of the session.
That's just the cataclysm. that's just the cataclysm arc of the campaign.
I mean, it could be. I mean,
Yeah.
it's a deep question.
You never know.
But at the same time, does that make a difference? You know,
Yeah.
I don't know.
I don't know.
Maybe it does.
Maybe it does. Maybe it doesn't. Who
Maybe it
knows?
doesn't.
Yeah.
If you, I mean, it's kind of similar, kind of related question. Number 3: if you could live in any fictional world, where would it be and why?
This is a really good question, actually.
Thank you.
Because like I actually have this almost the exact same question that I have on my Discord server. Whenever new people join the server, I always appreciate if they do an introduction in one of my channels. And one of the questions that I've posed as part of the template for this introduction is, if you got isekai'd into another world, what would that be? My answer to that was the world of Destiny 2. One of my favorite games of all time, even though it's got such a bad rap at the moment for the game. But the reason for that is because like the world is similar in the sense that it's very much Earth, but it's also gotten to a technological point where like, you know, you can do things that were not imaginable even in this world. Like the fact that you've got floating AI that will revive you from the dead. Weapons have these really cool, intricate designs and stuff. But also just like, you know, you can shoot for the stars quite literally.
Yeah.
And like, it wouldn't have any weird backlash on you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So Destiny 2 would be...
I would say so. Yeah.
Is it kind of a... When I think of Destiny, I haven't played it, but from the footages I've seen, I think of more dystopian, kind of futuristic.
Yeah. Yeah. That's probably the best, like, sort of thematic angle you could go for.
Yeah.
I would say with Destiny 2, because it is very much dystopian, but very much like post cataclysm kind of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Like post big event that will shape the world as you know it kind of thing. Yeah.
If you lived there, wouldn't it be kind of depressing to live there?
In a way, but I feel like, you know, with every world there is a purpose.
Yeah.
I think. And if the purpose there is to fight aliens and, you know, loot these big bad guys just to turn them into like really stupid weapons, I'm all down for it.
Yeah. Sounds good. Oh, put your mouse a bit closer.
Yeah.
Oh, you could sit back and pull
I
it.
could.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Up to you.
It should be right.
Question 4. What about yourself is completely different from what you were like 10 years ago?
Oh, wow. Oh, that's a good one. Very generalized answer, but I think it would be my personality.
Okay.
I was still quite the energetic kid, but I think the big thing about it is that I've grown to become a little bit more humble now.
Okay.
Like I've sort of drawn myself back in certain elements of how I talk and how I speak and how I do things. But back in the day, I was very just like hyper. Like you couldn't stop me if I was springing across the room.
Yeah.
Right. But now I can just sit. I can relax as much as I can.
Yeah.
And just be in the moment.
Mm.
Whereas, like back then, I was always like just jumping around the room and like I couldn't sit still.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you think your brain is very hyperactive? Like always thinking about something.
I would say so, yeah. Like I want to say that I've got a self-diagnosed ADHD,
Right.
but at the same time, I can't really prove that. Like I don't have every symptom, but I also have some symptoms at some points, and it's kind of like a fluctuating kind of thing. Not to the point where I say have like DID or something, but like I know for a fact that it's like I have these traits that are, you know, symptoms of ADHD, but I can't necessarily prove it because they don't come up all the time.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, yeah, I feel like that's probably a big thing where I've started to like tame that side of me that has become the super hyperactive person that I used to be.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Do you struggle sleeping at night? Because I know some people, you know, when they think too much, it's hard for them to sleep.
Surprisingly not.
Really?
That's like one of like that's exactly like one of the like the situations that I'm at where it's like you know, if people struggle to sleep because they keep constantly thinking,
Yeah.
I'm now like as soon as I hit my face to the pillow, gone.
Yeah?
Yeah.
That's a great skill to have.
Yeah. Yeah. But I will say as well, at like when I was younger, that was exactly the case.
Yeah.
I could not sleep at night because I had so many thoughts running rampant in my brain. I still have those same thoughts, but I've managed to tame them so much that like now I can just go straight to sleep.
Yeah.
Yeah. And I have absolutely zero problems.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah. That's good to hear.
Yeah.
That's good to hear. Yeah. Question number 5. If you died today, what would be your biggest regret?
Ooh, biggest regret. I would probably say, like, I would actually probably say not exploring the opportunities that I have as much as I have already done. Because I would say that there are certain avenues where I have explored a lot of different opportunities, but there's a lot that I've also been wanting to explore, which I haven't had the time to.
Okay.
And if I had the chance to explore them, I would.
Do you have an example of that?
I would not really actually, but at the same time, it's kind of one of those things where it's like there'll be days where I do think of these certain avenues or like these certain things, and I'm like, man, I wish I had the time to do this. But anyway, I need to get back to work.
Yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah.
like I just wish I had the time to really dive into these ideas that I feel that I have, but just with how many things that I'm doing at the moment, it's kind of like I just don't have the time.
That's the constant struggle with jack of all trades people.
Yeah.
You know, they want to, I mean, I think that's me as well. Like I want to do more things. Like D&D, for example, like if I had more time, you know, if I had like 40 hours in the world in every day, in a day,
Yeah.
like it would be something that would be cool to do, you know? Yeah.
Yeah. Even for D&D, like there's a lot of different things that I would love to, I guess, experience with it as well. Like one of the many sort of job avenues I've taken into consideration is actually becoming a full-time DM.
Yeah.
So that I can push away all the other things that I have and then like throughout the week focus on like creating battle maps, creating content, and then one day a week come together with my group that I play with, run it, and have a flawless session.
Yeah.
But will I ever have the time to do that? Is it like a viable market to be in? Who knows at the moment?
Yeah.
At least. Yeah.
I guess you'd have to create your own avenue, right?
Yes. Yeah. Especially with that kind of thing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know, but like you're obviously really passionate about it. You've been doing it for a long time too.
Yeah.
So
it's a possible option.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Doesn't seem too far-fetched.
No, not at all.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That would be awesome. I would love to see that.
Yeah.
I mean, you'll be... Are there full-time DMs?
Yeah, there are.
Wow.
I mean, if when you go to Armageddon now, there's a section called Questbook.
Okay.
And essentially it's a service of full-time DMs who will run campaigns for you for a price.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. Like they had this was actually an example from the Winter Armageddon earlier in the year. They had a time trial session called Vecna Must Die.
Okay.
Essentially, it was a dungeon crawl of whoever could defeat Vecna the fastest.
Right.
Wow. One guy, literally one guy, managed to do it in 10 minutes.
Really?
Yep.
Just one person?
Yep. And you know how he did it?
How?
5 character sheets.
What does that mean?
So he was playing 5 characters at the same time.
Really?
Yep. DM was sitting on one side, he was sitting on the other side,
Yeah.
and he had all 5 character sheets laid out.
Yeah, yeah.
He looked through every single one of them, glazed over them even, and was like, 3, 2, 1, go.
Yeah.
Okay, this character's going to do this, this character's going to do this, this character's going to do this, this. And it's like, yeah, okay, yeah. It's like
Speed run.
Yeah, the DMs were like so surprised at how he was running it.
Yeah.
And he only glazed over the actual things because like I think I had a small chance to talk with him a little bit, and what he said is like, as soon as I read the class and the level, I knew exactly how to do things.
So my guy must be experienced as.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. But what he did say is that if he were to win, which he did, it wouldn't just be a campaign just for him, or at least a one-shot just for him, because the prize was the DMs that were running it would actually come over to your house and do a session for free.
Yeah, yeah.
Or like do a mini campaign for free.
Yeah.
And he was like, I obviously I'm going to bring my friends over. Like, I cannot do that again.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
Like, that was painful to run, but it was so fun.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's sick.
But yeah, there is a small market, but it's, again, very small. So unless you were to make an extra living out of it, like say making content, like a live show, then yeah, you wouldn't really be able to get any profit out of it, really.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, these days, I feel like you can make money out of anything, and it's just a way of doing it.
100%.
Yeah. I mean, on TikTok, for example, like there's this guy who makes the lawn mowing videos.
Lawn mowing videos?
Have you seen those?
No.
So I don't know if it's on TikTok because I don't have TikTok, but I see it on like Instagram or YouTube Shorts.
Right.
And this guy, he's a lawnmower, goes around houses doing lawn mowing.
Oh.
And then he started filming himself doing that.
Yeah.
And you know, obviously like fast forward and stuff. And a lot of people found it super satisfying. So he started getting like fans. And then now he just goes around and sees like people with like houses with gardens that hasn't been taken care of.
Wow.
And they just knock on people, oh, could I do this for free? And I just get to film it. And he films people's reactions and he films himself doing it.
Wow.
And just really satisfying.
Yeah.
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 So
yeah, I follow a very similar guy, and he does pool work.
okay.
Yeah, he goes around to different people's pools. I mean, they're obviously paid jobs, but like just seeing the stuff he does is really interesting, but also very satisfying.
Yeah.
Because he's like throwing all these like chemicals and powders and stuff into the pool, and like dropping different like jellies and all that into like the filtration system. So it's like, why is this satisfying? But also, I'm intrigued.
I was like watching the lawn mowing video because it's like, I don't know, it's not like one of those like 20-second video. It is like a minute long or something.
Right.
And I'm like, why? Like 40 seconds, and I'm like, why am I watching this? And I can't stop watching this. Why am I watching someone do lawn mowing?
Who knows?
Who knows? But yeah, people are weird like that.
Yeah.
Question number 6. What do you wish was possible?
That's a really good one. Oh my god. What's something that I wish existed? I actually don't know.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a really hard one to really think of. Because there's so many different possibilities, I guess. But there's nothing that's like so completely out of the ordinary to like say this could be real theoretically.
Right.
Like the one thing that kind of comes to my mind at least is it would be this is going to sound so bad, but Sword Art Online.
So
I'm not gonna lie. I mean, obviously, like being a game developer, which
Yeah.
I don't think we've touched on.
nah, surprisingly.
Being a game dev, and seeing stuff like Sword Art Online and how virtual reality and augmented reality are sort of becoming better and better through the iterations that it's gone through. It's possible, not probably in the next 5 years, maybe in the next 10 years,
Yeah.
to get like something that's really good and really capable of giving that sort of experience. But yeah, at the same time, I feel like it's also way too out of the like the grand scope of things to really say this could be done. Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I guess like there's so many different ways that you could take it. Like again, it could be like a really good D&D tool to do everything in virtual reality.
Wow, that would be awesome.
It would be, but at the same time, with how technology is advancing at the moment at its very sort of slow-ish pace, I don't think it would be viable within the next 5 years. I think it would be like more of a 10 to 15 year sort of thing.
Right.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. What about like in terms of something being possible? What about like magic or being able to mind read?
I would say
Or
in
not too
terms of
fast?
I think magic,
Yeah.
I would say telekinetics.
Oh, yep.
Yeah. There was this one anime that I've watched, which is how a realist rebuilt the kingdom.
Okay.
And the power that he gets when he gets thrown into this world is the ability to animate objects. So the side characters walk into his room and they see that he's slumped down on the desk, but behind him there's 5 quills that are automatically writing out legislations for him. And it's like, that's a skill I would really love to have. Just having extra hands, but not
that's
actual hands, but like extra hands.
Yeah.
So that I can do multiple things at once. Like, I know for a fact for real life application, one of the best sort of ways that you could use it would be cooking. Because
Right.
when you look at like more intricate recipes, right, you're realizing that you have to do this at a certain time, this at a certain time, and this at a certain time. But A, B, and C overlap with each other on the start time. So being able to have those extra hands and the knowledge that you have to start this, this, and this at this time, this time, this time, you can get those extra hands to be like, go do this and go do this.
Yeah.
While I focus on this.
Yeah.
Yeah. And could be completely detached from you.
Heck yeah.
Yeah.
And one hand doing the dishes while
Yeah,
cooking.
exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. So I think in terms of like, say magic, for example, would be telekinetics.
Nice.
Yeah.
Question 7. What will never cease to make you smile?
People.
Aww.
People, I would say.
Wholesome question, wholesome answer.
Yeah. The only reason for that is because like it's that whole thing about like you can't judge a book by its cover. Like you find some of the most, I would say, like fearsome looking people, but then they're just, they're just wholesome at heart, really. And like you don't know what to expect coming out of people. So like in a way you could almost say that my answer being people is a very two-sided card, because you find those types of people who are like the most fearsome, like titans, like heavily bulked up looking guys who look like they will smash you to bits.
Yeah.
But actually they're just warm and cuddling on the inside.
Yeah.
And then also the smallest, meekest of men. And they are like, they look like they would be that opposite, but no, they are ready to mess with you.
Yeah.
Whether it be physically or mentally.
Yeah.
So like it's a very wholesome but also very two-sided answer,
Yeah.
in the sense that you genuinely cannot judge a book by its cover.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So is it that side of things that makes you smile?
I would say so.
Yeah.
Yeah. Because like it's kind of, it like either which way it surprises me very much. Being like, oh, I did not expect that coming out of you.
Yeah.
Yeah, and it's either like, oh, I did not expect that coming out of you, and I want to get to know you more.
Yeah.
Or, I'm going to step away now and not mess with you. Thank you very much.
And you say that with a smile.
Yeah, exactly.
What do you think is worth dying for, if anything?
Oh. What's worth dying for? It's hard to say, but I think the one thing that comes to my mind is kind of just the greater good. Like, as much as that sounds like a really, like, you know, ableist answer, like, if it means that humanity progresses in, like, a way for good, then yeah, probably.
Yeah.
But, like, people will probably have their own, like, opinions about it, as much as we hate to think. So, yeah, a very short and sweet answer, but
Yeah.
also very much like a realistic answer at the same time.
Did you play Walking Dead?
Yes, I have.
And you know how, I'm pretty sure I haven't played it. I think I saw someone playing it or watched the ending or something, but it's something like because there's that adult man
Yes.
and the kid.
Oh,
girl, right?
yeah.
And then I think she can give close to the scientist about how to cure the zombiness.
Wait, The Walking Dead or The Last of Us?
The Last of Us is what I'm thinking.
Yeah.
Yeah. Have you played that?
Yes, I have played it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's something like the scientist can look at the kid
Because Ellie is immune to
the zombie,
disease.
the disease.
Yeah.
And then they can figure out the cure for it, but then it most likely means that she'll have to die.
Yeah.
In the process. And then the guy decides to take her away or something like that.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah. So if you were that kid and you had the full like knowledge that might happen to you, but then they might be able to cure it.
I think in my opinion, I would want to live my life first.
Okay.
I want to check off every item in my bucket list before that happens and be content, essentially. Like, as soon as I feel contempt with the fact that I have lived my life, I'm ready to die.
So when would that be?
That, like, especially in a situation like The Last of Us, I think it would really depend on the time, I would say, because, like, you're living in a post-apocalypse, right?
Right.
So it's kind of like things are going to move at a much slower, but also at a much faster pace as well. And that really depends on your environment. Your environment is kind of just the factor that plays into everything the most.
Yeah.
So, like, as long as it really takes, I would say.
Right.
Is probably the best answer for that.
True.
Yeah.
True. What was the most recent thing that made you belly laugh?
I think it was the stupidity of yesterday. The absolute stupidity of yesterday. So, for context, we were watching the Game Awards, which is like it's kind of like the Oscars, the Tonys of the game industry, with me and a bunch of my friends who are all game developers. And I think the main thing that got us laughing was just some of the games that got announced as the winners for certain categories, because we were all expecting this one thing, but then it just turns out to be another thing.
Right.
Like, what was it? I think it was like best narrative for a game.
Okay.
And every single one of us in this group voted Baldur's Gate 3.
Right.
You know what won?
What won?
Alan Wake 2.
Really?
Yep.
Whoa.
Out of all the games that they had on that list for nominations, Alan Wake 2 won. And we were all just like, what? Like, we were all like, even though that was like the second award, we were all like just full on laughing about it, because we were like, this is going to be
unexpected.
This is going to become like the battle of the night. Like, last year it was Elden Ring versus it was like, what was it? Elden Ring versus something. This year it's Baldur's Gate versus Alan Wake 2.
Right.
Yeah. And what was surprising is we figured this out by the end of the night. Baldur's Gate won 6 out of the 9 nominations that it won. Yeah. Alan Wake got about the same,
Mm.
only won 3.
Oh,
Yeah.
right.
So for the most part, it was a Baldur's Gate sweep,
Yeah,
which
yeah,
we
yeah,
were
true.
kind of expecting.
Yeah, yeah.
But like Alan Wake 2 really put up a good fight
yeah.
with like their nominations, even though it's a static product. Like
Well-
it's not an actual person. But like, yeah,
Yeah. So must have been a pretty good game.
it must have been. That was the thing.
Hmm.
Like I'm not a big fan of the Alan Wake game that originally came out,
Hmm.
but from my assumption, I guess Alan Wake 2 was just that good that it deserved those 3 wins that it got.
Because I've heard a lot of people playing Baldur's Gate,
Mm.
but never Alan Wake.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No. Alan Wake literally only came out in the last couple months.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
So it's coming from the fact that people have recently played, finished that game, really enjoyed it apparently.
Mm.
But Baldur's Gate, you can't go wrong. It's just too good of a game.
Yeah.
I mean, it really deserved that Game of the Year award
right.
for sure. Because like D&D, which is obviously what it's based off,
Mm-hmm.
there's just so much options that you have playing Baldur's Gate.
Right.
Like hell, we started a run recently. This is like my 13th run
Wow.
concurrently
Yeah.
with all my other characters and campaigns that I'm doing. But the reason for this was we wanted to do a modded multiplayer run on the hardest setting possible.
Okay.
And essentially the hardest setting possible is obviously the enemies are harder. They have things called legendary actions, which they can do at any time.
Right.
But it's also like Minecraft hardcore,
Okay.
where if you do a full team wipe of your characters,
Yeah.
you can't play the game anymore. Or you can't play that save anymore.
It's rough.
It's
why
rough.
Why you do that to yourself? Why you guys, the gamers? This is the thing I don't understand about gamers. You know.
I think it's a thing of like we love the challenge.
yes.
And like it's
I get that actually.
yeah, and it's one of those things where it's like we love the challenge so much that we will do anything to feel the adrenaline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, when you pull that off.
Oh, yeah, for
You
sure.
know?
Yeah.
Like, yes, we
Like,
did that.
I think it was really interesting because like the one thing that we all said to each other when we first made this campaign was like, we're going to play the classes that we're comfortable with.
Mm.
And to no surprise, because we're playing what we're comfortable with, we managed to over-level like the encounters that we have.
Yeah.
So we are we are genuinely higher level than we're supposed to be going into the next encounters that we have
Mm.
coming up. And it's like sick. I mean, if I can defeat this guy by throwing 4 like pikes
Yeah.
at a person and knocking them prone every single time, I'm keen.
Yeah.
I'm down for it. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
So you guys really brought your aces in the A
like
game.
yeah, A game.
Yeah.
Very much A game. Yeah.
Okay, this is the last question of Cow questions.
All right.
And this will require pulling your phone out, Dylan.
Oh god. Okay.
Who was the last person you called and what did you talk about?
I called. Let's see. Yeah. Okay. So I'm not going to say who it is,
Okay.
but
okay,
what I will say
mysterious.
is, I was talking with one of my friends,
Mm.
and it was first and foremost talking about like, hey, I can't come to Sabres tonight, but I need to talk to you about the project at some point that we want to do.
Okay.
And that project is we want to do a pretty risque photo shoot,
Okay.
and it's kind of like it was kind of like a Christmas present idea
yeah.
where the actual present itself is not the shoot, but actually it's printing out and framing the photos from said shoot.
Mm.
So I'm not going to say what it is because it would be a little bit much for the internet. But
it's a family-friendly podcast still.
yeah, but what I will say is that both myself and my friend,
Yeah.
we're really excited to do this, and we're also really excited to just see what comes out of it.
Yeah.
Because it means that if this goes really well, we could just do this casually. Like it could be just something that we do because I mean we're already such good friends through like photography that like, you know, if we ever just want to do it again just for the shits and gigs, then we could.
Wow.
Yeah.
What an interesting call that was.
Yeah. Yeah.
Before we go move on to the next segment, what's your Twitch name? And because it's like the TheAnonDcrest, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. And what's the name? Like, what's the story behind the name?
So it's gone through a good few iterations.
Okay.
My original handle was just Decrest, DCREST.
Okay. Where did that come from?
It's kind of it was kind of just a name that I made up on the spot. Because this was like when I first bought Minecraft and was like setting up my account and everything, and I didn't know what I wanted to name myself because like I wanted to make sure it was short and sweet, but also had a little bit of uniqueness to it. And like it took so long that I was like, you know what? Can't be bothered anymore. I'm just gonna use my initials, so DC.
Right.
And then I don't care, so I'm just gonna put the rest.
DC Rest, I see. Yeah.
So now it's just become Decrest, which is great. Like
it's pretty cool.
Yeah. And then when I started doing YouTube content, way back in like say 2013 to 15 or something like that, I wanted to make it a little bit longer, because I knew for a fact that starting out my career, I was not going to be that big, right? So I made it the Anonymous Decrest. Right. But then when I got older, and obviously till now, starting up stuff like Twitch, and then also doing a couple rebrands here and there and the other, I wanted to make sure that it was shorter, kept the same sort of tone, kept the same sort of vibe. So I then shortened it to the TheAnonDcrest. Yeah. So that's where the name is now.
Right.
Yeah.
That's good to know. Because when I first read it, I'm like, where do you cut it? You know, is it the TheAnonDcrest?
Yeah.
Or like what's going on here? You know? Yeah.
So that's kind of where it is at the moment. And then on top of that, with my photography stuff and like sort of my art stuff, straight away completely, because I wanted to make sure that those two things are somewhat related but also separate. Right. So with my photography stuff, all of my handles are under Dylan Chan Productions.
Okay.
Which is very similar in the sense that how I've designed the logos and all that for that is reminiscent of the colors that I use in my Twitch.
Okay.
Which is all purples, whites, golds, all that. So it's very much, there's like sort of the dichotomy of the two brands that harmoniously work into one, but also stray away from each other.
Yeah.
At the same time. Yeah.
Speaking of which, just because you got few projects going on there, before we get into the last segment, do you want to throw out where people can follow you?
Yeah, so if you want to follow me on Twitch, it's twitch.tv/TheAnonDcrest. If you want to follow me for my photography and my art stuff, it's on Instagram at Dylan Chan Productions. And pretty much on all other platforms, Twitter, TikTok, probably Instagram Reels. You could probably find me on one of those two handles as well. Yeah.
Well, I'll have a link to all of those in the descriptions too.
Yeah.
So here's the last question,
okay.
Dylan.
Yeah.
Since you have your phone out too,
okay.
Have you heard that phrase? Your eyes are the window to the soul.
Yeah.
Well, someone said that's a lie. It's actually your phone notes.
My notes.
Your notes.
Oh.
Could we look into your soul?
Okay.
Please.
Yeah. Okay. That depends, though. That's the thing, because how this is getting into like sort of how I work as well.
Right.
I use Notion. That's my main note-taking app now.
Okay.
I've got 5 different workspaces. So which one do you want to look into?
So you don't use phone notes? You just use Notion?
I use Notion.
Right.
Yeah.
I think so. I'm guessing each of those workspaces is pretty big.
It's huge.
It's huge.
Yeah.
Right.
So I'll give you a little showcase here.
Yeah.
So this one that I'm currently on is my RPG notes. So these are all different characters. This is like for my campaign. These are all other like RPG tabletop systems and other sort of like notes that pertain to those sorts of things.
Yeah.
So like if I were to go into my campaign notes, for example, for my campaign, The Six Spires of Heishan,
Whoa.
I go into say like my deities list, and then I have like all of these different subpages within this one page that are all pertaining to deities and also people who are associated with like archmages essentially.
Yeah.
And like you go into say like let's go into Ilias the Wave Treader of Logic, which is like one of the big head honchos. Yeah.
Is it? Did you come up with that?
I came up with all of the description myself.
Oh my goodness! Can you read like part of it or something?
Okay, so let's see. Ilias, known as the Wave Treader of Logic, is the enigmatic and impartial prime deity who reigns supreme over the pantheon. This divine entity takes the form of a colossal, majestic whale that gracefully navigates the ever-shifting currents of the astral sea.
Damn.
Yeah.
And does it say like their background stories and stuff like that?
Essentially. For example, as the guardian of knowledge and the embodiment of cosmic balance, Ilias possesses a profound and all-encompassing wisdom. Its vast mind delves into the deepest mysteries of the multiverse, seeking to uncover the underlying truth that govern the cosmos.
Do you read a lot, Dylan? Like, where does this come from? Like, because you have to be creative.
Yeah.
But not only that, you have to be able to write, you know?
It's really funny. I'm not much of a writer, like in general, but if I have to write, I know what to write. Like one of my qualities that a lot of people have really known me for is I know how to write a really good email. Which is really funny, right? But I find writing this specific campaign, like the notes for the campaign, sort of a creative outlet for myself to like sort of just vomit ideas. Yeah. Essentially. And like a lot of it then just becomes kind of what it is now, where it's this just giant like web of different like information and stuff like that. So that's kind of where that's all become now.
There is so much there.
There's so much information here.
So what's Heishan?
Heishan is the continent and country of my homebrew world.
Okay.
Yeah.
Homebrew world.
Essentially how it works is Heishan has six different spires called the Ring of Coin. And essentially what it is each of the spires harbors a different major city. Okay. And each of those major cities harbor a different economic trade. So the idea is that there is a socio-political element to the campaign where you have to try and find not you have to try and find, but like each of the cities have this really sort of diverse but also very strict sort of economic balance that they have to play with each other. Yeah. If one of the cities fall into ruin, where does the money go for that industry? Okay. So now it throws everything out of proportion, kind of thing. So it's a very fine line that every city has to tread with each other to make sure they don't go to war with each other, and keep everybody else in balance, essentially. Yeah. Yeah. So that's kind of that whole thing.
That's one world.
That's one world.
Yeah.
And then I've got pages for like different old characters that I've got, right, for older campaigns as well as current campaigns, and then a bunch of other stuff here that is like all just jumbled up with other different things. Yeah. And then I have things like this one, which is my session notes for the campaign I play in, right? Which to pronounce it is Fidria. Okay. It's actually Afrikaans because my DM is actually from South Africa, so he's put in a lot of his culture into this kind of campaign as well, where it's a lot of Afrikaans and a lot of like the stuff that he knows well, and brought it into this sort of setup. And essentially, like on here, there's a lot of different things where like old session notes that we have a relationship board that we've started building, which basically ties the relationship between all the different characters as well as all the different NPCs and how they relate to the world and everything. We have world notes of like all the different characters, locations, items, NPCs, and villains that are in the world. And then also just database and personal notes that I have for like my character. Like here for like my character Kirsten, he's got this sort of stage fright condition.
Okay.
Where basically if he feels out of his element, I roll a specific check to see if I can keep myself calm and consolidated in the moment. If I fail it, you hear like rattlesnake like shimmering from like my body.
Right.
And that scales that flip because my character's a changeling, which means that he can shapeshift into different forms. So that's his form becoming unstable. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. It's a lot.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So much.
And then on top of that, I think the last one I can probably show here is I've got my personal one, which keeps track of all my general notes, any game notes that I have for specific games, stuff for my streaming, and for my production company.
So what's the kind of the content in
So for this one, it's actually a lot of different things because a lot of these also act as sub sites for like the content that I push out. So like, for example, if I go to photo sets here, it's actually a way to showcase like my timeline of like how photos are going for clients. Yeah. So I'm supposed to actually move that down into here. But like, for example, I've got a to-do, doing, and done list for clients that they can view. And I've got one which is for Armageddon Spring 2023. And then in that, for example, it's got all the different like shoots that I had been like asked to do from the weekend. Yeah. And like when they were, what time slot they were, what the status is for the actual job, and all that sort of stuff. Yeah. Yeah. So it's a lot of stuff that's in here.
That's a lot of stuff.
I've also got rates. I've also got my computer setup because that actually ties into my Twitch, showcasing what my computer setup is like at the moment. Okay. And just showing like, you know, what parts I'm using, what peripherals I'm using, and all that sort of stuff, just in case for like future reference if I get sponsorships with like a company to like swap out my headphones. I can just update it there and say, I'm using these headphones. You can use this code for like 10% off at this location. Yeah. Yeah. And then like if I was to go into just say my like general note tracker, the most recent one that had been opened was paint colors because at the moment I'm doing my house renovations for my 2 rooms because my grandmother's old room isn't being turned into my bedroom. And then the current room that I'm in is turning into my office. And I'm building a huge, big battle station for my computer. Wow. Which is amazing. I'm going to absolutely enjoy making that. But the main thing I wanted to change was I wanted to do the setup where one of the walls of the 4 walls that I have in each of the rooms would be a feature color. And I wanted a sort of very muted but striking tone that represented like my current sort of state for each of the rooms. So my bedroom at the moment is has got like a really nice forest green, which I got from Rosine. And the other room I have, which is the office, is going to be in like sort of a dark, muted purple kind of tone. Yeah. Chapter and verse specifically for the color name. Okay. Yeah. So I'm hoping. I haven't done the other room yet, but so far, looking at the green that I've added to the bedroom, it looks great. Looks exactly how I was hoping it to. Yeah. Yeah. But we've also just had electricians come in, so now I have to repaint certain areas of it.
Is it going to be another painting stream, or?
Maybe. I can make content out of it. Anything is content in this day and age. You know? Yeah. Yeah. But yeah. Wow. Like, it's one of those things that a lot of people bag me about in the sense that your notes look so like all over the place. But it's one of those things where it's like, I know exactly where my notes are and when I need them. So yeah, that's kind of the current situation and standpoint of my notes.
Wow.
Yeah.
That really was looking right into your soul right there.
For sure. For sure. It really speaks a lot to my character, doesn't
Yeah.
it? Yeah.
Yeah, no, for sure. I mean, you'd be surprised like how much it shows about people. Because I did this with Liam.
Yeah.
Yeah. And then it was about Kiwi Rivals.
Yeah.
It was about Kiwi Rivals and his
surprises.
work.
Yeah.
You know? And
Yeah.
it's just like, yeah, that's what we talked about. And like clearly that's like
Showcased very well.
It's just very good representation of like what he's passionate about, like the kind of the brain capacity, like how much your brain is working on that thing, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So. I will admit though, like especially for my end of things when it came to Kiwi Rivals, when I was doing Kiwi Rivals 1 and 2, like a lot of my notes I didn't really keep in a note like area. It was very much my sort of like marketing brain kicking in and being like, right, I'm not going to bother with notes now. I need to make a run sheet quick now. So like all of those notes immediately got transferred into a Word doc.
Yeah.
So like I didn't even bother just writing notes on my phone. I just got my computer, just started typing, and I created an entire run sheet in like one night.
Right.
And like on top of that, I also created like 2 or 3 other documents as well on the side purely for myself.
Yeah.
At the same time.
Right.
So like all of those notes consolidated into one like sort of setup of like different documents that I can then future reference when I go back to doing Kiwi Rivals 4, hopefully. So yeah.
What do you have in terms of like your like the characters that you came up with? Do you have like a favorite one that you enjoyed writing that stands out to you at all?
They're all
Characters
really good. I'm
deities.
not gonna lie, they're all really good.
You're proud of them.
I'm so proud of them.
Yeah.
They've become my babies, literally. They're like to put this really weirdly, they've just become my babies.
I mean, you did give birth to them.
That is true. That is true. But what I will say is, I think my standout one that I have absolutely loved playing. Is one of those characters that were in there called Clovis. Essentially, he is a winged tiefling, which is like horns, weird skin. Actually has wings instead of not having wings. But he basically, to give you the like simple rundown, born into a noble family of humans, was grown up to become a potential future leader of the town, goes on this adventuring party to like sort of do his medical research because he was learning to become like essentially a pharmacist, but like created lifelong friendships along the way, as you do, and had almost this like span of time where he essentially grew up at a very, very fast pace because he always felt like he needed to, he always felt like he was royalty, essentially. Nobility makes sense. Like everything was done for him. He didn't have to do that many things. But living out in the wild with his now lifelong party, he grew up a lot. And there are parts that did grow up and there are parts that didn't. So it was a really interesting dichotomy of having to role play not just the parts that, you know, were him being a big pompous noble, haha, like you suck because I have more money than you do, but also the parts where you could show the fragile side of his nature. And like there's this one thing that I've heard from a lot of different experienced DMs where it's like the one thing that always ceases to amaze me at my own table is when you see true emotion come out of your players. And being somebody who's been on both sides of the coin, being somebody who has delivered that and also been on the receiving end of it, it really surprises me. And like, especially in the moment where like I quite literally broke down at the table, which caused the entire rest of the party to break down at the table. Like in the moment, I was like, this had to be done. Like, I was still in that character mindset of like, I had to go. I couldn't help it.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I was like, holy shit, I just did that.
What did you do?
It was essentially this big argument between me and one of the other players who was playing my adoptive sister at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it was talking about like, you know, how they had chosen certain actions and did not care for me as the character. And it was this big argument that lasted like at least half of the session. And then by the end of it, I was like, nah, I can't, and just flew.
Right.
I left the party for like 3 sessions.
Yeah.
And well, not even 3 sessions. It was like more like a good substantial amount of time, actually. But obviously I came back the next session with a new character.
Yeah.
But what happened was that they realized what went wrong or what happened, and they were like, oh no, what did I just do? What did I just do? We just lost one of our most quintessential characters of our campaign. And all of them realized this at the same time. They rushed back to essentially the office that my character was in. And you could see that because previously you would have seen that like his office was nice, neat. Everything was in its place and all that. Table was flipped over. Windows were bashed out. Papers, confidential papers, might I add, scattered across the floors. And you could just see him wrapped in his wings, like in the corner doing the like I'm insane shake.
Yeah.
And like there was this whole moment of, I know you're my sister, but you don't understand. You don't understand what I'm going through, and I don't know how I'm supposed to make you see it. And like you could just see everybody start to be like teary-eyed. They were like getting to that point of like emotionally breaking. I was already at that point. But like seeing everybody else, like it's hard to see it, but then you realize that it's like, oh my god, I've just done that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's crazy.
There's a lot of emotion that can come out of playing D&D, but it's up to the players and the DM to make those decisions to then go forward with that if everybody else is comfortable with it.
Yeah.
And thankfully, everybody was comfortable with doing that sort of thing, but I didn't expect such a big reaction out of it as well.
It's like some kind of turned into a therapy session, this one.
In a way, yeah. It really did. Yeah. But with that, it really did like bring the party closer together.
Yeah.
And created not just the bond between the players, but also the bond between the characters that lasts a lifetime. Even though we, by the end of the campaign, all went our separate ways, we would always find ourselves coming back to each other at some point and reminiscing about those moments and loving each and every one of those moments together.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, I definitely loved this memory, the moment of having you on this podcast, Dylan.
Yeah.
I really appreciate you taking time out of your way.
No, I mean, thanks for having me on, man.
Oh, it's my pleasure.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was awesome hearing about D&D stuff because I have no idea, but it's something that I've been interested in.
Yeah.
I even watched the movie. Did you enjoy the movie, by the way?
It was good.
Yeah.
I enjoyed it. It was very comical. But I feel like there's always improvements.
Yeah.
But hey, I mean, that's always movies.
Yeah.
You know?
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. But I really appreciate you being here. And then it was awesome talking to you.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me on.
Yeah, for sure. But looking forward to your future content too.
Yeah, for sure.
See? Thanks, Dylan.
Yeah, no worries.
Bye, everyone.